The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy and destiny. But what happens when a warrior from beyond the stars arrives, carrying her own divine truth, one that refuses to accept that some fates are inevitable? Diana of Themyscira had faced gods and monsters, tyrants and demons. She had stood against Ares himself and emerged victorious. Yet nothing in her centuries of existence had prepared her for the sensation of being unmade and remade across the fabric of reality itself. The dimensional rift tore through her like lightning through water. One moment, she had been pursuing one of Darkseid's parademons through a boom tube. The next, colors she had no names for exploded across her vision. And the familiar hum of her divine essence, the gift of the gods that powered her very being, stuttered and flickered like a candle in a storm. When consciousness returned, Diana found herself on a cold metal floor. The taste of copper in her mouth and an unfamiliar energy saturating every molecule around her. Not magic, not divine power. Something living, pervasive, as if the very air breathed with invisible life. She pushed herself upright, her Amazonian physiology already working to heal the disorientation. The room around her was clearly medical. White walls, strange instruments she didn't recognize, and a viewport showing an ocean of stars unlike any constellation she'd ever studied. Through that viewport, she could see the curve of a ship's hull and the distant flicker of, was that cannon fire? "Subject is conscious," a mechanical voice announced from somewhere above. "Vital signs stabilizing. Unidentified humanoid. No records in Republic database." Republic. Diana's combat instincts flared. She rose to her feet in one fluid motion, assessing her situation with warrior efficiency. Her armor remained intact, the star-spangled blue and red a vivid contrast against the sterile white of the medical bay. Her bracers gleamed on her wrists. The lasso of truth hung at her hip. Her tiara sat firmly on her brow. But something was wrong. Her strength felt muted. Not gone, but as if she were moving through water instead of air. The divine gifts of Athena, Artemis, and Hermes still coursed through her. Yet they resonated differently here, struggling against some unseen resistance. The door hissed open. A woman in strange robes entered, flanked by two soldiers in white armor that covered them head to toe. The woman's species was unfamiliar. Orange skin, white facial markings, and strange tentacle-like appendages where hair should be. She held what appeared to be a glowing rod in her hands, though she kept it lowered, non-threatening. "Easy," the woman said, her voice calm and professional. "I'm Healer Vindi of the Republic Medical Corps. You were found drifting in a damaged escape pod near the Rishi Maze. Can you understand me?" Diana's gift of tongues, Athena's blessing, worked perfectly. The woman's words translated instantly in her mind, though the language bore no resemblance to any earth tongue. "I understand," Diana replied, studying the soldiers. Their body language suggested training and discipline, but also weariness. Whatever conflict was happening beyond that viewport, these people had been fighting it for some time. "Where am I? What star system is this?" Healer Vindi exchanged glances with one of the soldiers. "You're aboard the Republic Medical Frigate Sanctuary, currently stationed near Coruscant. I'm more interested in where you came from. That pod you were in, the technology is unlike anything in our databases, and your physiology..." She consulted a datapad. "Your cellular structure suggests baseline human, but your strength and durability readings are off the charts. Are you a force sensitive?" Force sensitive. That word again. Force. Diana could feel it now that she was conscious. That strange living energy that seemed to permeate everything in this place. It felt almost aware. As if it were examining her as thoroughly as she was examining it. "I am Diana of Themyscira," she said, drawing herself to her full height. "Princess of the Amazons, ambassador of my people, and champion of truth and justice. I came here through means I don't fully understand myself. A rift in space and time." The soldiers' weapons rose slightly. Healer Vindi raised a hand to stop them. "Interdimensional travel?" The healer's skepticism was evident. That's impossible. Even hyperspace operates within our own dimension. Many things are deemed impossible until they occur, Diana replied. She took a step forward, and though the soldiers tensed, she moved with deliberate slowness, radiating peace rather than threat. I mean no harm to you or your republic, but I need information. What war are you fighting? And the vision hit her like a physical blow. It came without warning, crashing through her consciousness with the weight of divine prophecy. Diana had experienced such visions before, warnings from the gods, glimpses of possible futures. But this one carried the force of destiny itself, as if the very fabric of this strange universe was crying out in warning. A woman. Dark hair, gentle eyes, pregnant and radiant despite the fear in her expression. A room of cold metal and harsh light. Medical droids working frantically. A man in dark robes standing at a viewport, his back turned, fists clenched. She's dying. Medically, she's completely healthy. We don't know why she's dying. She's lost the will to live. The woman's eyes closing. Twin infants crying. Darkness spreading across the stars like a plague, consuming world after world. A black armored figure standing amid the corpses of younglings, red blade humming in the dark. And through it all, a sense of tragic inevitability. A fate woven by lies and manipulation. A good man's fall. A good woman's broken heart. The death of hope itself. Diana gasped, her hand shooting out to steady herself against the medical bed. Healer Vindi moved forward in concern, but Diana waved her off. I'm fine, she managed, though her heart raced. I saw something. Someone. A vision. The healer's voice held wonder now, and something else. Recognition. You are force sensitive. The Jedi will want to speak with you. Diana barely heard her. The vision still burned in her mind's eye. That woman's face, so full of sorrow and resignation. The heartbreak that would kill her more surely than any weapon. The darkness her death would unleash. The woman I saw, Diana said urgently. She had dark hair, kind eyes. She was pregnant. Do you know who she might be? Healer Vindi frowned. That description could fit many people. But if the Force is showing you visions... She paused. Perhaps the Jedi Council can help you understand what you've seen. Diana nodded slowly, her warrior's instincts screaming that time was of the essence. She had been brought here for a reason. That much was clear. The fates had never shown her meaningless visions. Somewhere in this vast, war-torn galaxy, a woman was walking toward a death that would break the stars themselves. And Diana of Themyscira had been given a chance to stop it. Take me to your Jedi, she said, her voice carrying the steel of Amazonian determination. I have a life to save. Coruscant rose before the viewport, like a jewel of light and durasteel. An entire planet transformed into one endless city. Diana pressed her hand against the transparent steel, marveling at the sheer scope of civilization before her. She had seen great cities, Athens, Rome, Metropolis, Themyscira itself. But nothing approached this. Billions of beings living in vertical towers that stretched kilometers into the sky, with air traffic flowing between them like schools of fish in an ocean of light. Impressive, isn't it? The voice came from behind her, warm and cultured. Diana turned to find a woman approaching across the frigate's observation deck. She was human, with dark hair elegantly arranged, wearing robes of deep burgundy that spoke of status and refinement. But it was her eyes that caught Diana's attention. Intelligent, compassionate, carrying the weight of someone who had seen too much suffering and refused to look away. It's magnificent, Diana replied honestly. Though I can sense the strain beneath the beauty, this city is at war. The woman's expression grew somber. You're perceptive. Yes, we've been at war for 3 years now. The Separatist alliance against the Republic. She extended her hand in a gesture Diana recognized as a greeting. I'm Padmé Amidala, Senator of Naboo. Healer Vindi contacted me about your unusual arrival. I was curious to meet someone who claims to be from another dimension. Diana accepted the handshake, and the moment their palms touched, recognition struck her like lightning. This was the woman from her vision. Diana's enhanced senses, already struggling to adapt to this universe's strange energy, suddenly focused with crystal clarity. She could hear Padme's heartbeat, strong and steady, but beneath it, another rhythm, faster, smaller. No, two smaller rhythms, twins. The woman was pregnant, just as in the vision, though she showed no outward signs yet. And beneath the senator's calm exterior, Diana sensed something else. Fear. Not for herself, but for someone she loved. A secret she carried like a weight on her heart. "Senator Amidala," Diana said carefully, releasing her hand. "I'm Diana of Themyscira, and I believe the Force, or whatever power governs this universe, brought me here to meet you specifically." Padme's diplomatic mask flickered with surprise. "Me? Why would you think that?" "Because I saw you die." The words hung in the air between them. Padme's composure cracked, genuine alarm flashing across her features before she controlled it. But Diana had been trained by Amazons to read truth in every gesture, every micro-expression. The senator was afraid, terribly afraid, though trying desperately to hide it. "I think," Padme said quietly, glancing at the two Republic guards stationed nearby, "we should continue this conversation somewhere more private." Padme's quarters aboard the diplomatic transport were modest but comfortable, decorated with artwork from worlds Diana couldn't name. The senator poured 2 glasses of something pale blue that smelled faintly of citrus, before settling into a chair across from Diana. "Tell me about this vision," Padme said, her diplomatic training warring with personal terror. "Please." Diana leaned forward, her voice gentle but urgent. "I saw you in a medical facility, giving birth to twins. But something was wrong. The healers couldn't understand why you were dying. They said you'd lost the will to live." She paused, watching Padme's face go pale. "I saw darkness spreading across the galaxy afterward, as if your death was the first domino in a catastrophic chain of events." Padme's glass trembled in her hand. She set it down carefully, as if afraid she might drop it. "I'm not pregnant," she said, but the lie was transparent even as she spoke it. "Senator Amidala," Diana said softly, "I am bound by truth. It is woven into my very essence. I can see the lie in your words, just as I can hear the 2 heartbeats within you. But more than that, I can see you're terrified. Not of me, of something else, someone else." For a long moment, Padme said nothing. Then, slowly, her shoulders sagged, and the careful mask of the diplomat crumbled to reveal the frightened woman beneath. "How far along can you sense?" she whispered. "Perhaps 3 months. Early enough that your robes conceal it." Padme closed her eyes. "No one can know. If the Jedi Council discovered that Anakin and I are married, he could be expelled from the Order. If the Senate knew..." She laughed bitterly. "I've built my entire career on the image of the dedicated, untouchable senator. This would destroy everything." "Anakin," Diana repeated, filing the name away. The vision had shown a man in darkness, but she hadn't known his identity. "Your husband is a Jedi?" "The chosen one, according to prophecy," Padme said, opening her eyes. They glistened with unshed tears. "Destined to bring balance to the Force. He's brilliant and powerful and brave and..." Her voice caught. "And sometimes he frightens me." Diana's divine instincts flared warning. She reached out and took Padme's hand, not with the lasso, but with simple human, Amazon compassion. "Tell me why." And Padme did. The words poured out like water from a broken dam. 3 years of secret marriage, stolen moments between battles, the constant fear of discovery. Anakin's growing darkness, his nightmares, his obsession with preventing death after losing his mother, his increasing distrust of the Jedi Council, the way he spoke about the Chancellor, Palpatine, with reverence that bordered on worship. "He's having nightmares about me," Padme confessed, her voice barely a whisper. "Dreams of me dying in childbirth. They're consuming him. He's convinced the Jedi are keeping secrets from him, secrets that could save me, and the Chancellor encourages those suspicions." Diana's warrior mind assembled the pieces with cold efficiency. a powerful but emotionally unstable young man, prophesied for greatness. A wife and unborn children he would do anything to protect. A mentor figure whispering poison in his ear, and a woman who would die not from physical harm, but from a broken heart. "Your husband is being manipulated," Diana said, "and you fear he'll fall to darkness trying to save you." "I fear he's already fallen," Padme whispered. "I just don't want to see it." Diana stood, her decision crystallizing with the clarity that came from centuries of fighting for truth. "Then we will pull him back from the edge, and we will ensure you survive, not through darkness or fear, but through hope and truth." She extended her hand. "I was sent here for this purpose, Senator Amidala, to save you and, through you, perhaps save this entire galaxy from the darkness I saw in my vision." Padme looked up at her, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. "You really believe you can change fate?" Diana smiled, fierce and determined. "I've fought gods and won. Fate is simply another opponent to overcome." She pulled Padme to her feet. "But I'll need your help. I need to understand this war, these Jedi, and most importantly, I need to meet your husband. If he carries darkness, I have tools to reveal it, and perhaps to heal it." "The lasso?" Padme glanced at the golden rope at Diana's hip. "The lasso of truth," Diana confirmed, "forged by Hephaestus himself, blessed by the goddess Hestia. It compels absolute honesty from anyone bound by it. No lie can survive its touch. No deception can hide from its light." For the first time since the conversation began, hope flickered in Padme's eyes. If Anakin could see the truth of Palpatine's manipulations, then perhaps we could prevent the fall I saw in my vision, Diana finished. "But first, I need to acclimate to this universe. My powers are diminished here. Some property of this force energy interferes with my divine gifts. I'm perhaps 85% of my normal strength." "That's diminished?" Padme's eyebrows rose. "Healer Vindi said you could probably bend Durasteel with your bare hands." "On my world, I could stop a charging god," Diana said simply. "Here, I'll need to be more strategic until I fully adapt." She moved to the viewport, watching Coruscant's endless lights. "When can I meet your husband?" "Soon," Padme said, joining her. "He's returning from the Outer Rim sieges within the week." "But Diana—" She hesitated. "The Jedi Council will want to meet you first. They're going to have questions. Many questions." "Then, let them ask," Diana said. "I have nothing to hide. And perhaps these Jedi can help me understand this force that seems to govern your galaxy. If I'm to save you from your fated death, I'll need to understand the rules of destiny in this place." Padme smiled, genuine warmth breaking through her fear. "You know, when I woke up this morning, I never imagined I'd be making friends with an interdimensional warrior princess." "Life has a way of surprising us," Diana replied, returning the smile. "In my experience, the most important alliances are often formed in the most unexpected circumstances." She turned back to face the senator fully. "You carry the future of this galaxy within you, Padmé Amidala. Those twins will be important. I can sense it. We will ensure they know their mother's love. This I swear on my honor as an Amazon and as Wonder Woman." "Wonder Woman," Padme tested the title. "Is that what they call you in your world?" "Among other things," Diana said. "I've been called hero and monster, princess and warrior, savior and threat. But the name I choose for myself is simply Diana, a woman who fights for those who cannot fight for themselves." Her expression grew serious. "And right now, Senator, you need someone fighting for you. Because the darkness I saw in that vision won't be stopped by politics or diplomacy. It will take a warrior willing to stand against fate itself." Padme reached out and squeezed Diana's hand. "Then I'm grateful the Force sent me a warrior. Welcome to the Clone Wars, Diana of Themyscira. I have a feeling you're going to change everything." Outside the viewport, Coruscant glittered in the darkness, unaware that a force from beyond its universe had arrived, one that would challenge destiny itself to save a single life, and in doing so, might just save them all. The Jedi Temple rose from Coruscant's surface like a monument to ancient wisdom, its 5 spires reaching toward the sky with architectural grace that spoke of millennia of tradition. Diana stood at its base, craning her neck to take in the full scope of the structure. Even diminished as her powers were, she could sense something profound emanating from within. That strange living energy called the Force, concentrated here like water in a reservoir. "Impressive," she murmured. "Wait until you see the inside," Padme said beside her. The senator had insisted on accompanying Diana to the council meeting, using her political influence to secure herself a place as observer. "The Jedi have maintained this temple for thousands of years. It's seen the rise and fall of empires." They climbed the broad steps together, flanked by clone troopers in white armor. Diana noted how the soldiers moved, efficient, disciplined, but with an unsettling uniformity that suggested something beyond mere training. They were too similar, their gaits almost identical, their responses synchronized in a way that spoke of shared genetics rather than shared experience. "The clone army," she said quietly to Padme. "They're all brothers?" "Literally." "Cloned from a single template," Padme confirmed, her voice carrying sadness. "A bounty hunter named Jango Fett. They were created for this war, grown at accelerated rates. Most are only 10 years old chronologically, though they're physically and mentally in their 20s. Diana's jaw tightened. The Amazons had strong feelings about creating life solely for combat. A slave army? Then. "The Jedi don't see it that way," Padme said. "They say the clones fight by choice, that they're treated as individuals, but—" She trailed off, clearly uncomfortable. "It's one of the moral compromises the Republic has made during this war. One of many." The temple's interior was breathtaking. Soaring halls of polished stone, meditation chambers filled with serene light, and everywhere the sense of focused minds bent toward understanding the Force. Younglings in training robes practiced with lightsabers under the watchful eyes of instructors. The weapons hummed with contained energy, elegant and deadly in equal measure. A tall figure approached them, his brown robes marking him as a Jedi. He was middle-aged, with reddish hair graying at the temples and a neatly trimmed beard. His blue eyes held wisdom tempered with weariness, and a lightsaber hung at his belt. "Senator Amidala," he greeted with a slight bow. "Thank you for escorting our visitor." His gaze turned to Diana, assessing without judgment. "I am Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jedi Master and member of the Council. You must be Diana of Themyscira." Diana inclined her head respectfully. "Master Kenobi, thank you for agreeing to see me. When a woman appears from another dimension bearing weapons that register as impossibly ancient on our scanners, the Council pays attention," Obi-Wan said with a slight smile. "Your bracers, for instance. Our sensors cannot determine their composition, and that lasso at your hip." He studied it with obvious interest. "It resonates with the Force in ways I've never encountered." "The lasso of truth," Diana said, touching it lightly. "Forged by a god of my world and blessed with power to compel absolute honesty. It's one of my most sacred tools." Obi-Wan's eyebrows rose. "A weapon that forces truth? I can think of several council members who would be very interested in such a device. Though I suspect you don't lend it freely." "The lasso is not a weapon," Diana corrected gently. "It's a tool for revelation, for cutting through deception to reach understanding. And no, I don't share it lightly. Truth can be as dangerous as any blade." "Spoken like someone who understands the weight of power," Obi-Wan said approvingly. "Come." The council is assembled. They ascended through the temple's levels, finally reaching the council chamber at the top of one of the spires. The room was circular, with 12 chairs arranged in a ring. Some were occupied by Jedi in person. Others glowed with holographic projections of Jedi appearing from distant worlds. Diana recognized the small, green-skinned figure in the central chair immediately from his presence alone. Master Yoda, Padme had briefed her, 900 years old, and perhaps the most powerful Jedi alive. His eyes, ancient and knowing, fixed on her with intensity, that felt like being examined by the Force itself. "Welcome, Diana of Themyscira," a dark-skinned man with a purple lightsaber said. "Mace Windu," Padme had mentioned, second only to Yoda in authority. "You've caused quite a stir with your arrival. We understand you claim to be from another dimension entirely?" "I don't claim it," Diana said, stepping into the center of the circle. "I state it as fact. My universe operates under different laws than yours. Where I come from, there is no Force as you know it. Instead, there are gods, the Olympians, who grant power to chosen champions. I am one such champion." "Gods," Mace Windu repeated, his tones skeptical. "The Jedi do not believe in gods, only in the Force. And yet, here I stand," Diana said calmly. "Proof that your Force is not the only power in existence. Tell me, Master Windu, what do your sensors say about my physiology?" A female Jedi with a cone-shaped head, Shakti, consulted a datapad. "Your cellular structure is baseline human, but enhanced beyond natural limits. Your strength, speed, and durability exceed anything we've encountered outside of the Force, and yet—" She frowned. "You don't read as Force-sensitive. There's something else in you, something we can't identify." "Divine essence," Diana explained. "The gifts of Athena, Artemis, Demeter, Hestia, Hermes, and Aphrodite. Wisdom, combat prowess, strength, truth, speed, and compassion, all woven into my being by gods who exist in my reality." She met each council member's gaze in turn. "I understand this challenges your worldview, but I submit that if my presence here is possible, then your understanding of the universe may be incomplete." "Humble you are not," Yoda observed, though there was a hint of amusement in his ancient voice. Diana smiled. "I'm honest. There's a difference. Humility doesn't require self-deprecation, Master Yoda. It requires accurate self-assessment." Several council members exchanged glances. Obi-Wan coughed to cover what might have been a laugh. "You said you had a vision," Mace Windu pressed. "What did you see?" Diana hesitated, glancing at Padme standing near the entrance. This was delicate territory. She couldn't reveal Padme's pregnancy without permission, but she needed the council's help. "I saw a woman dying," she said carefully. "Not from violence, but from heartbreak. Medical technology could not save her because the wound was to her spirit, not her body, and her death triggered a cascade of darkness across the galaxy. Worlds burning, hope dying, evil triumphant." She paused. "I believe I was brought here to prevent this outcome." "The Force works in mysterious ways," a holographic Jedi said. "Ki adi mundi," Diana recalled. "But specific visions of the future are rare and often unreliable. The future is always in motion." "Perhaps in your universe," Diana said. "But I come from a place where prophecy is often horrifyingly accurate. The fates weave destiny with cruel precision. If they showed me this vision, it was for a reason." "Curious," Yoda mused, tapping his Geimer stick thoughtfully. "Strong with the Force, you are not. Yet visions you receive. Connected to the Force this galaxy is, in ways you do not understand, perhaps." "That's why I'm here," Diana said. "To understand. To learn your ways, so I can work within them. I'm not trying to impose my reality on yours, Masters. I'm trying to adapt to it so I can fulfill my purpose." Mace Windu leaned forward. "And what purpose is that, precisely?" "To save lives," Diana said simply. "It's what I've always done. In my world, I'm called a hero. Someone who stands between the innocent and those who would harm them. I don't see why that should change simply because I've crossed dimensional boundaries." "Noble sentiments," Obi-Wan said. "But this galaxy is at war. Billions of lives hang in the balance. One woman, no matter how powerful, cannot hope to—" "I don't hope," Diana interrupted. "I act. Show me where people are suffering and I'll help them. Show me injustice and I'll fight it. Show me evil and I'll stand against it." Her voice carried the steel of Amazonian conviction. "That's what I do, Master Kenobi. It's what I am." Yoda's ears perked up. "Test her, we should. See if words match actions, "Test me how?" Diana asked. Mace Windu smiled and there was challenge in it. a demonstration of your abilities, and perhaps a conversation with someone who can better judge your divine nature. The chamber doors opened. Diana turned to see a young man enter, and her divine senses immediately screamed warning. He was tall, with sandy hair and striking blue eyes, wearing the robes of a Jedi Knight. Handsome, charismatic, moving with the controlled power of a trained warrior. But beneath that surface, Diana's enhanced perception saw something else. Darkness, coiling like smoke through his aura. Fear, anger, and a desperate possessive love that bordered on obsession. And when his eyes found Padme near the entrance, the way his expression transformed, hunger and devotion and terror all mixed together, Diana knew with absolute certainty who this was. Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan said, his voice carrying affection and concern in equal measure. Thank you for joining us. This is Diana of Themyscira. The Council wants you to assess her combat capabilities. Anakin's gaze shifted to Diana, and she met it steadily. This close, she could feel the force roiling around him like a storm barely contained. Power. Yes, enormous power, raw and barely controlled, but also conflict, light and darkness at war within him. The chosen one, Padme had called him, destined to bring balance, or destined to fall. Combat assessment, Anakin said, his voice carrying confidence that bordered on arrogance. Master Windu, I don't think it's appropriate for me to fight a woman who could probably snap you in half, Diana interrupted, her tone pleasant but her eyes sharp. Don't mistake my gender for weakness, Jedi Skywalker. Where I come from, the greatest warriors are women. We train from childhood in combat arts you've never imagined. Anakin's eyes narrowed, pride clearly stung. Is that a challenge? It's a fact, Diana said. She reached to her hip and drew the lasso of truth, letting it unfurl in a gleaming golden coil. But if you want to test yourself against an Amazon, I'm willing. Though I suggest we make this interesting. How so? Mace Windu asked. Diana smiled. Let me use my lasso. Not as a weapon, but as a teaching tool. If I can bind you with it, Skywalker, you must answer 3 questions with absolute honesty. If you escape it, I'll answer any 3 questions you ask me with the same honesty. Obi-Wan tensed. Diana, I'm not sure that's... Agreed, Anakin said immediately, his competitive nature overriding caution. 3 questions either way. Sounds fair. Diana saw Padme pale at the entrance. The senator knew what questions Diana might ask, what truths might be revealed. But this was necessary. To save Anakin Skywalker from the darkness consuming him, Diana first needed him to see it himself, and the lasso never lied. Then let's begin, Diana said, settling into a combat stance that was elegant and deadly. Come, chosen one. Show me what the Force can do against truth itself. Anakin ignited his lightsaber, the blue blade humming to life. In the plasma's glow, Diana could see the darkness in him more clearly. Fear of loss, anger at perceived betrayals, and beneath it all, a terrible prophecy waiting to unfold. But prophecies, Diana had learned long ago, were made to be broken. May the best warrior win, Anakin said, and lunged. Anakin Skywalker moved like lightning made flesh, his lightsaber a blur of blue plasma as he closed the distance between them. Diana's enhanced perception, Athena's gift, allowed her to track every movement, every shift of weight, every subtle telegraph of his intentions. But tracking wasn't the same as matching. Here, in this universe saturated with Force energy, her divine speed felt sluggish, as if she were moving through honey instead of air. She twisted aside as the blade passed within inches of her shoulder, feeling the heat radiating from the plasma. Her bracers came up instinctively, and when Anakin's follow-up strike connected with them, the sound of lightsaber meeting enchanted metal rang through the council chamber like a bell. The blade stopped cold. Anakin's eyes widened in shock. He pushed harder, channeling Force-enhanced strength into the strike, but the bracers, forged from the remains of Zeus's Aegis shield, held absolutely firm. Not even a scratch marred their polished surface. Impossible, Anakin breathed. Nothing stops a lightsaber. Nothing. Divine metal forged by gods, Diana replied, spinning the lasso in her other hand. Your plasma blade is impressive, Skywalker, but it's not the most dangerous thing I've faced. She lashed out with the lasso, the golden cord moving like a living serpent. Anakin backflipped away, using the Force to propel himself across the chamber with impossible grace. He landed in a crouch, reassessing. Diana could see the calculations running behind his eyes, analyzing her speed, her reach, her capabilities. Good. He was a tactical fighter, not just a brawler. You're fast, Anakin admitted. But I've fought faster. Have you fought smarter? Diana asked, and lunged. What followed was a dance of blade and lasso, force and divine strength. Anakin's lightsaber techniques were fluid and aggressive. Form Vi, Diana's tactical mind catalogued, designed for power attacks and defensive counterstrikes. But his style was aggressive beyond the form's parameters, each strike carrying more force than necessary, more emotion than control. She could feel it bleeding off him. Frustration, fear, the need to prove himself. To the council watching, to Obi-Wan, his master, to Padme, standing silent at the chamber's edge. Diana pressed her advantage, using her centuries of combat experience to anticipate his patterns. The lasso cracked out, wrapping around Anakin's lightsaber wrist. The moment it touched his skin, golden light flared. And Anakin gasped as if struck. "What?" he started, then froze as the lasso's power took hold. Diana pulled him closer, maintaining the binding. 3 questions, as we agreed, and you must answer truthfully. The lasso allows nothing else. She kept her voice gentle despite the combat, aware of every eye in the chamber fixed on them. First question. What do you fear most? Anakin's mouth opened, and Diana could see him fighting the compulsion. His whole body tensed, force energy crackling around him as he tried to resist. But the lasso of truth had been blessed by Hestia herself, infused with the concept of honesty at a fundamental level. No lie could survive its touch, not even in a universe governed by different laws. Losing Padme, Anakin said, the words torn from him against his will. His eyes went wide with horror at the admission. I dream about it every night. I see her dying, and I can't stop it. Just like I couldn't stop my mother. Padme inhaled sharply at the entrance. Several council members exchanged significant glances. This was clearly news to them. Second question, Diana continued, her heart aching for the young man's pain, even as she pressed forward. What would you do to save her? Anything. The word came out immediately, without hesitation. I'd burn the galaxy to ashes if it meant she lived. I'd betray the Order, the Republic, everything. I'd embrace the dark side itself if it gave me the power to save her. Anakin, Obi-Wan started forward, shock and concern warring on his features. But Mace Windu raised a hand, stopping him. The council needed to hear this. Diana could see it in their faces, confirmation of suspicions they'd held but never voiced. Diana felt the darkness in Anakin surge at his own confession, as if speaking the truth aloud had given it more power. She pressed on to the final question, knowing it was the most important. Third question. Who has been encouraging these feelings? Who tells you the Jedi are wrong to forbid attachment? Anakin's face contorted with the effort of resistance. His free hand came up, force energy crackling around his fingers. For a moment, Diana thought he might actually attack her, but the lasso's compulsion was absolute. Chancellor Palpatine, Anakin whispered, and the name fell into the chamber like a stone into still water. He says attachment isn't weakness, that the Jedi fear emotion because they're afraid of true power. He tells me stories about the dark side, about Sith Lords who learn to stop death itself. He says if I'm strong enough I could save anyone I love. That I don't have to choose between being a Jedi and being a husband. The silence that followed was deafening. Diana released the lasso and Anakin staggered back, his lightsaber deactivating as he clutched his wrist where the golden cord had touched. His expression cycled through shock, anger, betrayal. At himself for speaking. At Diana for forcing the truth. At the situation itself. You used the Force on me, he accused, though his voice lacked conviction. I used truth, Diana corrected. The lasso doesn't control minds, Anakin Skywalker. It simply strips away the lies we tell ourselves. Everything you said came from your own heart. She coiled the lasso back at her hip. The question is, what will you do with that truth now that it's spoken aloud? Anakin looked past her to the council, to Obi-Wan's devastated expression, and finally to Padme. The senator stood frozen, tears streaming down her face, one hand pressed protectively over her abdomen. Anakin started, but Mace Windu cut him off. You are married to Senator Amidala. It wasn't a question. How long? 3 years, Anakin said, the words hollow. The lasso's effect lingered. He seemed unable to lie now that the truth had been dragged into the light. Since the beginning of the war, we married in secret on Naboo. And the Chancellor knows? Obi-Wan asked, his voice strained. No. At least I never told him, but he... Anakin's face crumpled. By the Force he knows, doesn't he? He must know. The way he brings up attachment. The specific stories he tells. He's been manipulating me. For 3 years, Mace Windu said, his voice hard as Durasteel. Palpatine has been grooming you, Skywalker, turning you away from the Order, preparing you for... He stopped, realization dawning. A fall to the dark side. Yoda's ears drooped. Blind, we have been. The Chancellor, a Sith Lord he may be, or allied with one, at minimum. Dangerous, this is. Most dangerous. Diana stepped forward, addressing the council. In my vision, I saw a dark armored figure standing amid the bodies of children. Jedi children. She looked directly at Anakin. I believe that figure was you, transformed by the dark side. And I believe Palpatine intends to use your fear of losing Padme to engineer that transformation. No, Anakin said. But it was a broken sound. I would never hurt younglings. I would never... You said you'd burn the galaxy to save her, Diana reminded him, not unkindly. The dark side doesn't transform us into different people, Anakin. It amplifies what's already inside us. Your love for Padme is pure. But your fear of losing her, that fear could be twisted into something monstrous. Anakin sank into one of the council chairs, his head in his hands. What have I done? What have I almost done? Obi-Wan moved to his former apprentice's side, placing a hand on his shoulder. You haven't done anything yet, Anakin. That's the crucial point. Diana has given us a warning, a chance to change course before tragedy occurs. The senator, Shakti said, looking at Padme. She's pregnant, isn't she? That's the woman dying in Diana's vision. Padme nodded slowly, stepping fully into the chamber. Twins. I'm carrying twins. And I've been terrified that Anakin would sense it, that the council would discover us, that everything would fall apart. She looked at Diana with something like gratitude. You forced the truth into the open. Maybe that's what we needed all along. Truth is the foundation of wisdom, Diana said. Secrets are what the dark side feeds on. Shame, fear, isolation. These are the weapons of those who would manipulate you. She addressed the council as a whole. In my world, I've fought beings of immense power who used lies and manipulation to corrupt heroes. The pattern is always the same. Isolate the target, feed their fears, offer them power as a solution, then spring the trap once they're committed. Palpatine is following this pattern, Mace Windu said grimly, which means we must act, but carefully. If he truly is a Sith Lord, confronting him prematurely could be catastrophic. We need proof, Obi-Wan said. Concrete evidence of his connection to the dark side. Without it, arresting the Supreme Chancellor would tear the Republic apart. It could hand the Separatists victory. Diana frowned. So you'll allow him to continue manipulating Anakin? To continue whatever plan he's pursuing? We'll be vigilant, Yoda said. Watch Palpatine closely, we will. And Skywalker, removed from his influence. He must be. Anakin looked up, panic flashing across his face. You're not expelling me from the Order? We should, Mace Windu said bluntly. You broke your vows, Skywalker. You married in direct violation of the code. By rights, you should be stripped of your rank and exiled. But, Obi-Wan interjected, these are not normal times. And Diana has shown us that your fall serves a larger purpose, one orchestrated by our enemies. Expelling you now might push you directly into Palpatine's arms. A second chance you have earned, Yoda said, though his ancient eyes were sad. But conditional, this chance is. Honest you must be, from now forward. And from Palpatine's influence, you must distance yourself. I will, Anakin said fervently. I swear it. I'll do whatever the Council asks. Good, Mace Windu said. Because we're going to need Diana's unique abilities in the coming days. If Palpatine is the Sith Lord we've been searching for, or connected to one, then having a warrior who can compel truth might be the advantage we need. Diana met his gaze steadily. I came here to save one woman. But if saving her means rooting out a greater evil, I'm willing to expand my mission, on one condition. Name it, Mace Windu said. Padme and her children must be protected above all else. If my vision is correct, her survival is the key to preventing galactic catastrophe. Whatever happens with Palpatine, whatever battles must be fought, she remains safe. Agreed, Obi-Wan said immediately, looking at his former apprentice. Anakin, you and Padme should leave Coruscant. Go somewhere safe until— No, Padme said firmly. I'm a senator. I have responsibilities. The Republic needs you alive, Diana interrupted. Trust me, Senator. I've seen enough wars to know that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is step back from the front lines. She smiled gently. Besides, those twins you're carrying, they're important. I can feel it. They have a role to play in this galaxy's future. Padme's hand moved to her abdomen again, protective and wondering. You can sense them? What they'll become? Not specifics, Diana admitted. But power recognizes power. Your children will be strong in the Force, Padme. Stronger than perhaps even their father. They'll need their mother to guide them. Anakin stood abruptly. Then I'll go with her. Protect her myself. I won't let— No, Mace Windu said sharply. You're too close to this, Skywalker. Your fear for her is precisely what Palpatine will exploit. You'll stay here, where the Council can monitor you. Diana will accompany the Senator to safety. You trust her more than me? Anakin's voice rose, anger flashing. She's been here for days. I've served the Order for over a decade. And in that decade— You've been compromised, Mace Windu said, not unkindly. This isn't about trust, Anakin. It's about strategy. Diana is immune to Palpatine's influence. You, demonstrably, are not. Diana stepped between Anakin and the Council, her presence commanding attention. Anakin Skywalker, look at me. She waited until his angry eyes met hers. I understand your fear. In my world, I've loved and lost. I know the terror of facing a future without the people who make life worth living. But let me tell you what I've learned. Fear doesn't protect the people we love. It imprisons them. And it imprisons us. Easy for you to say, Anakin shot back. You're not the one having nightmares about your wife dying in childbirth. No, Diana agreed. But I am the one who traveled across dimensional barriers to prevent it. I am the one who has fought gods and monsters to protect the innocent. And I am telling you, as a warrior who has walked this path, if you let fear control you, you'll become the very threat you're trying to prevent. She placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch gentle but firm. Trust me to protect her. And trust yourself to be strong enough to face what's coming without letting darkness consume you. For a long moment, Anakin said nothing. Then, slowly, the tension drained from his shoulders. Swear it, he said hoarsely. Swear on whatever gods you serve that you'll keep her safe. Diana drew herself up to her full height. By Athena's wisdom, Artemis's courage, Demeter's strength, Hestia's truth, Hermes' speed, and Aphrodite's compassion, I swear I will defend Padmé Amidala and her children with every breath in my body. No harm will come to them while I live. The words resonated in the chamber, carrying weight beyond mere speech. Even the Jedi, who didn't believe in gods, seemed to feel the power of the oath. "Then go," Yoda said. "To Naboo perhaps, or Alderaan. Somewhere safe, with allies true." Padme nodded. "I'll contact Bail Organa. He can arrange transport and security." "And what do I do?" Anakin asked, lost. "You stay here," Obi-Wan said gently. "You train. You meditate. You remember why you became a Jedi in the first place, and when the time comes to confront Palpatine, because that time will come, you'll be ready. Not as a frightened boy trying to save his wife, but as the chosen one who will bring balance to the Force." Anakin's expression hardened with determination. "Then that's what I'll do. For Padme. For our children. For the galaxy." Diana smiled. "That's the spirit. Now, if the Council has no objections, the Senator and I have a trip to plan." "Go with our blessing," Mace Windu said. "And Diana? Welcome to the Clone Wars. We're grateful to have you on our side." "I'm not on anyone's side," Diana corrected. "I'm on the side of truth and justice. But in this case, that happens to align with yours." She turned to leave, Padme falling into step beside her. As they exited the council chamber, Diana heard Yoda's voice, soft but carrying. "Change the future, she may. But at what cost, That remains to be seen." Diana didn't look back. She had made her oath. Now she would keep it, no matter what the Force itself threw in her path. The safe house on Naboo was beautiful in its simplicity. A lakeside villa surrounded by flowering gardens, far from Theed's political center. Diana stood on the terrace watching twin suns descend toward the horizon, painting the water gold and crimson. In her universe, such peace often preceded catastrophe. She wondered if the same held true here. "Credits for your thoughts?" Padme emerged from the villa carrying 2 cups of tea. She'd shed her senatorial robes for simpler clothing that better accommodated her growing pregnancy. At 4 months, she was beginning to show. "I was thinking about chains," Diana said, accepting the tea. "The visible and invisible kind." Padme settled into a chair with the careful movements of early pregnancy. "Cryptic. Very Jedi of you." "The clone soldiers," Diana clarified. "I've been watching them since we arrived. Your security detail. They're polite, efficient, utterly professional. But they're slaves, Padme, born and bred for war, told it's their purpose, their choice. But what choice exists when you're created for a single function?" Padme's expression grew troubled. "I fought against the clone army initially, voted against its authorization. But the war was upon us, and we needed soldiers. The alternative was allowing the Separatists to conquer the Republic." "Lesser evils are still evil," Diana said gently. "I've heard that argument before. It's how good people compromise themselves one step at a time until they look in the mirror and don't recognize who's staring back." She sipped her tea, some local blend that tasted of citrus and honey. "In my world, I once fought alongside a man who believed the same thing. That sometimes you had to make hard choices, sacrifice principles for victory. He became one of the greatest threats I ever faced." "What happened to him?" "He died believing he was saving the world," Diana said softly. "And in a way, he was right. But the world he saved wasn't worth living in." Padme set down her cup with trembling hands. "You think the Republic is already lost, don't you? That we've compromised too much, gone too far?" "I think you're in a trap," Diana said. "Palpatine, or whoever he truly serves, has engineered a war where both sides answer to him. The Republic creates a slave army and gives a single man emergency powers. The Jedi become generals, abandoning their role as peacekeepers. Politicians like you are forced to choose between impossible options. And all of it leads toward one conclusion: the consolidation of power into a single pair of hands." "The Chancellor's hands," Padme whispered. "I've been blind. We all have. He's been friends with me since I was Queen of Naboo. I trusted him completely." "That's how the best manipulators work," Diana said. "They earn trust first, then exploit it. Palpatine has been positioning himself for years, decades perhaps, waiting for the perfect moment to spring his trap." A clone trooper, Captain Rex, according to his helmet markings, approached the terrace. "Senator, we've detected an unauthorized ship approaching. Single occupant. Jedi signature." Diana was on her feet instantly, hand moving to her lasso. "Anakin?" "No, ma'am," Rex said, his voice carrying through his helmet's vocoder. "Master Kenobi. He's requesting permission to land." Padme and Diana exchanged glances. "Grant it," Padme said, "but maintain alert protocols." 10 minutes later, Obi-Wan Kenobi strode across the terrace, his robes dusty from travel. His expression was grim. "Forgive the intrusion," he said. "But we have a situation." "What's happened?" Diana asked, her tactical instincts already analyzing potential threats. Obi-Wan ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of weariness Diana recognized. "The Council sent me to investigate Palpatine quietly. Nothing obvious, just observing his meetings, tracking his communications. Diana, he met with the Separatist leadership. We have holographic evidence." "The Supreme Chancellor met with the enemy?" Padme's face went pale. "That's treason. That's proof he's playing both sides," Diana finished. "What did they discuss?" "The death of Count Dooku," Obi-Wan said. "Palpatine told them it was necessary, that Dooku had become a liability. He promised them the war would end soon, that the Republic would fall, and a new order would rise from its ashes." He paused. He used the term empire. Diana's jaw tightened. She'd studied enough history to know where this was heading. He's going to dissolve the Republic and declare himself emperor. The war is just the excuse he needs, prolonged conflict that justifies emergency powers until he can make them permanent. "That's the Council's assessment as well," Obi-Wan confirmed. "But here's where it gets worse. He specifically mentioned Anakin. Said the Chosen One would soon fulfill his true purpose. That his fall was inevitable." Padme stood abruptly, tea forgotten. "We have to warn him. We have to—" "The Council already has," Obi-Wan said. "Anakin is under constant supervision. Mace Windu himself is keeping watch. But Diana was right about one thing. Palpatine knows about your marriage. He's known all along. It's why he's been grooming Anakin so carefully, waiting for the perfect lever to pull." "Me," Padme said, hand moving protectively to her stomach. "My death. That's the lever." "Or the perception of your death," Diana said, her mind racing. "Obi-Wan, in my vision, I saw Padme dying in childbirth. But what if that's not natural? What if Palpatine intends to orchestrate it, or make Anakin believe he has? Push him into embracing the dark side to save her, then ensure she dies anyway, leaving him with nothing but rage and the Sith teachings?" Obi-Wan's face darkened. "That's diabolical. But it fits. Palpatine has been hinting to Anakin that the dark side holds the secret to preventing death. If he could convince Anakin that the Jedi's rules cost him his wife, Anakin would burn the Order to the ground," Padme finished, horror dawning. "That's what Diana saw. The temple burning, the younglings dead, Anakin transformed into something dark." Diana paced the terrace, her tactical mind assembling pieces. "We need to think several moves ahead. Palpatine is clearly a master strategist. He won't move until all pieces are in position. What's his endgame?" "Unlimited power," Obi-Wan said. "The Jedi destroyed or scattered. The Republic transformed into a totalitarian state. And Anakin, the Chosen One, as his enforcer. His Sith apprentice. Then we need to dismantle his plan piece by piece," Diana said. "First, Padme's safety is paramount. She stays here, heavily guarded. No one, and I mean no one, knows her location except the three of us and trusted allies." "Bail Organa," Padme said. "I'd trust him with my life." "Good. Second, we need to document Palpatine's treason. That holographic evidence. Can it be authenticated?" "The Jedi archivists are working on it now," Obi-Wan said. "But Palpatine is careful. He may have contingencies if we move too soon." "Then we need our own contingency," Diana said. "The lasso of truth. If I can get close enough to Palpatine, wrap him in it, he won't be able to lie. Every crime, every manipulation, every connection to the Sith, it would all come spilling out." "The Chancellor is heavily guarded," Obi-Wan cautioned. "His Red Guards are elite warriors. And if he truly is a Sith Lord himself, then I'll face a Sith Lord, Diana said simply. I've fought gods, Obi-Wan. I'm not afraid of a politician with delusions of grandeur, no matter what dark powers he wields. Hubris, Obi-Wan said, though not unkindly. The dark side is more insidious than you realize. It corrupts, it twists. Even the strongest minds can fall. Not if they're bound to truth, Diana countered. That's my advantage. The lasso doesn't just compel honesty in others, it protects me from deception, including self-deception. The dark side feeds on lies we tell ourselves. I can't be fed those lies. Padme stood, moving between them. This is all assuming you can get close to Palpatine. He's been avoiding the Council since Anakin's revelation. He knows we're suspicious. Then we need bait, Diana said, an idea forming. Something he wants badly enough to risk exposure. Anakin, Obi-Wan said reluctantly. He's been trying to contact Anakin constantly, offering support, expressing concern about the Council's treatment of him, trying to re-establish the connection we disrupted. Then let him, Diana said. Let Anakin pretend to be receptive. Arrange a meeting, somewhere we can control, somewhere I can be hidden. When Palpatine tries to complete Anakin's corruption, I step in with the lasso. You're talking about using my husband as bait, Padme said, fear and anger warring in her voice. Putting him back in Palpatine's path after we just pulled him away. I'm talking about giving Anakin a chance to be the hero he wants to be, Diana corrected. To face his demons with support instead of alone. To prove to himself and the galaxy that he can resist the darkness. Obi-Wan stroked his beard thoughtfully. It's risky. If Anakin falters, if Palpatine senses the deception, then I'll be there to ensure he doesn't, Diana said. This is what I do, Obi-Wan. I stand between good people and the darkness that would consume them. I've done it 1,000 times across 1,000 battles. Trust me to do it here. The Jedi Master studied her for a long moment. You know, when you first arrived, I thought you were arrogant, overconfident. But I'm beginning to understand. That's not arrogance. It's certainty born from experience. I've fought beside gods and defeated them, Diana said. I've seen civilizations fall and helped them rise again. I've faced the personification of war itself and emerged victorious. Sheev Palpatine, for all his cunning, is just a man. A powerful man. A dangerous man, but a man nonetheless. And men can be defeated. The Sith are more than just men, Obi-Wan warned. They're attuned to the dark side in ways that transcend normal understanding. And I'm attuned to truth in ways that transcend your force, Diana countered. We each have our strengths. The question is, are we willing to combine them? Padme placed a hand on Diana's arm. If we do this, if we use Anakin as bait, you have to promise me something. Promise me you won't let Palpatine twist him. That you'll protect him not just from physical harm, but from corruption. Diana met her eyes, seeing the fear of a wife and mother-to-be who had already lost too much sleep, worrying about the man she loved. I promise, by all the gods of Olympus, I will not let Anakin Skywalker fall to darkness, not while I draw breath. Obi-Wan nodded slowly. Then I'll take your plan to the Council. Master Windu won't like it. He doesn't trust Anakin not to actually fall during the meeting. But Master Yoda might see the wisdom in it. And if we can expose Palpatine definitively, then the war ends, Diana said. Not with more violence, but with truth. The Separatists learn they've been manipulated by the very republic they're fighting. The Senate sees the monster they've been granting power to. And Anakin gets to be the hero who helped bring it all down. A nice story, Obi-Wan said. Let's hope reality cooperates with the narrative. After he left, Diana and Padme stood together on the terrace, watching the suns complete their descent. The sky had turned deep purple, and the first stars were emerging. Do you really think you can save him? Padme asked quietly. Anakin, I mean. He's so conflicted, so full of fear and anger. Sometimes I look at him, and I barely recognize the boy I fell in love with. War changes people, Diana said. I've seen it across 100 conflicts. Good men twisted by violence, by impossible choices, by the weight of loss. But I've also seen them come back from the edge. It takes courage, support, and above all, Truth. Truth about what they've become and why. Truth about what they could still be. You talk like you've lived 1,000 lifetimes. Just one, Diana said. But a long one. I've been fighting for justice since before your grandparents were born, Padme. And in all that time, I've learned one fundamental truth. People are worth saving. All people. Even the ones who've walked dark paths, especially those ones. Padme's hand moved to her stomach again. These babies. Do you really think they'll be important? I know they will be, Diana said. I can feel their potential even now. They'll be strong in your force, yes. But more than that, they'll be symbols. Hope born from love, surviving despite a galaxy trying to tear them apart. Children of the chosen one who get to choose their own destinies, instead of having prophecy thrust upon them. I want to meet them so badly, Padme whispered. I want to hold them, raise them, watch them grow. But every time I close my eyes, I wonder if I'll survive long enough to see it. Diana turned to face her fully, placing both hands on the senator's shoulders. Listen to me, Padmé Amidala. You will survive. You will hold your children. You will raise them and love them and watch them change this galaxy. This I have sworn, and I do not break my oaths. Ever. Tears spilled down Padme's cheeks. How can you be so certain? Because I've beaten fate before, Diana said. And I'll do it again, for you, for your children, for Anakin, and for every being in this galaxy who deserves a future free from tyranny and fear. She pulled Padme into an embrace, feeling the senator's shoulders shake with quiet sobs. Outside, clone troopers maintained their vigilant watch. Above, stars wheeled in alien constellations. And somewhere on Coruscant, a Sith Lord plotted moves in a game he thought he'd already won. But Palpatine had never faced an Amazon warrior princess before. That, Diana thought with grim satisfaction, was about to become his greatest miscalculation. The Battle of Cato Neimoidia erupted with the sudden violence that characterized the Clone Wars. Diana stood on the bridge of the Republic Star Destroyer Resolute, watching through the viewport as starfighters swarmed like angry insects around separatist frigates. Turbo laser fire crisscrossed the void in brilliant emerald and crimson streaks, each impact sending shockwaves of debris scattering across space. All wings report in, Obi-Wan said into his comlink, his voice carrying the calm authority of a seasoned general. Maintain formation. Focus fire on the cruiser's shield generators. Diana had returned to Coruscant at Obi-Wan's request, leaving Padme under Captain Rex's protection on Naboo. The Council wanted her to observe a battle firsthand, to understand the scale of the war before they implemented her risky plan with Anakin. But observation was proving difficult. Her warrior's instincts screamed to be in the fight, not watching from the safety of a command bridge. Those pilots, she said, watching clone starfighters execute impossibly tight maneuvers. How old are they? Chronologically? 7, maybe 8 years? Obi-Wan said without taking his eyes from the tactical display. But they're trained from birth, grown at twice the normal rate. In terms of experience and capability, they're equivalent to men in their 20s. Children, Diana said quietly. You're sending children to die. I'm sending soldiers to fight for the survival of the Republic, Obi-Wan corrected, though his voice carried sadness. I don't like it any more than you do, Diana. But this is the reality we face. The Separatists field trillions of battle droids. Without the clone army, the Republic would have fallen in the first year. A proximity alarm blared. The tactical officer, a human woman with lieutenant's bars, called out, "Vulture droids incoming. 12 marks, diving on our starboard ventral hull." Diana watched the autonomous fighters swoop toward the Star Destroyer, their wing-mounted cannons already firing. Clone pilots moved to intercept, but several droids broke through the screen, their weapons scoring hits along the destroyer's hull. "Shields holding at 70%, the tactical officer reported. "But if they target the generator nexus—" Diana moved before anyone could react. She sprinted across the bridge toward the nearest airlock, ignoring Obi-Wan's startled shout. "Diana, what are you—" "Doing what I do best," she called back, already cycling the airlock. "Fighting. You can't survive in vacuum," Obi-Wan protested, racing after her. Even with your abilities, space will kill you in seconds. Diana smiled, fierce and wild. Master Kenobi, I can fly. She touched the controls, and the outer door began to open. And I'm much harder to kill than you think. She stepped into the void. The cold hit her like a physical blow, attempting to steal the air from her lungs. But Diana had trained in the harshest environments the Masira could provide, had survived the void between dimensions during her arrival. Her divine physiology, Demeter's gift of endurance, adapted almost immediately. She wouldn't survive indefinitely in vacuum, but she could manage several minutes, more than enough. Diana launched herself toward the nearest vulture droid with Hermes' speed, the stars wheeling around her in dizzying spirals. The droid's sensors registered her presence too late. She slammed into it with the force of a meteor, her bracers raised. The impact shattered the droid's central processor, sending it spinning into debris. Two more droids pivoted, tracking her with inhuman precision. Laser fire stitched the space where she'd been, but Diana was already moving, twisting through the vacuum with aerial grace that would have made Artemis proud. She grabbed the wing of one droid as it passed, using its momentum to swing herself around and drive her boot through its optical array. The third droid adapted, firing ahead of her trajectory. Diana raised her bracers and the laser bolts ricocheted harmlessly away, deflected by divine metal. She reached for her lasso, let it unfurl in a golden arc, and snared the droid's wing. One sharp pull, and the wing tore free. The droid spiraled away, its gyroscopes unable to compensate. Through the viewport, she could see Obi-Wan and the bridge crew staring in open-mouthed shock. Diana grinned, gave them a salute, and dove toward the next wave of droids. 15 minutes later, Diana cycled back through the airlock, her skin tinged blue from cold, but otherwise unharmed. The medical droid hovering nearby scanned her with evident confusion. Subject's core temperature has dropped 12 degrees, it reported in mechanical tones. Oxygen deprivation indicators present, yet cellular damage is minimal. This is highly irregular. I'm highly irregular, Diana agreed, accepting the thermal blanket a concerned ensign offered. Master Kenobi, status report? Obi-Wan looked at her with an expression somewhere between awe and exasperation. You destroyed 17 vulture droids, in vacuum, with your bare hands. And my lasso, Diana corrected. Let's give credit where it's due. The tactical situation has stabilized, the lieutenant reported, clearly trying to maintain professionalism, despite having just witnessed something impossible. The separatist cruiser is retreating. Minimal casualties on our side. Minimal because of her, Obi-Wan said, gesturing at Diana. Those droids would have breached our shields if she hadn't engaged them directly. He shook his head. I've fought beside Jedi who can survive brief exposure to vacuum using the Force. But fighting in it? For that long? That's divine endurance, Diana said, warming herself with the blanket. Though, I'll admit, I won't be making a habit of it. That was deeply unpleasant. An alarm chimed. The communications officer looked up from her station. General Kenobi, we're receiving a distress call from the ground forces on Cato Neimoidia. They're pinned down at the bridge city. Heavy droid casualties. They're requesting immediate air support. Obi-Wan's jaw tightened. Can we spare the gunships? Negative, sir. The separatist cruiser is damaged but not destroyed. If we commit our support craft to the ground battle, they could regroup and hit us while we're vulnerable. Diana stepped forward, shedding the thermal blanket. Then I'll go. Diana, you just survived vacuum exposure. And I'm fine, she interrupted. Those soldiers on the ground, they're the children we were just discussing, aren't they? Clone troopers fighting and dying for a republic that created them as weapons? Obi-Wan's expression grew pained. Yes, but then they deserve someone fighting for them, Diana said firmly. Prepare a gunship. I'm going to that bridge city. Alone? I work best that way. Obi-Wan studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. The Force is telling me not to argue with you. I've learned to trust such instincts. He activated his comlink. Prepare a lay-at gunship for immediate deployment. Authorization Kenobi 77 Blue. Thank you, Diana said. Then more quietly. I know this war troubles you, Obi-Wan. I can see it in your eyes. Every order you give, every soldier who falls, you carry them. I'm a Jedi, he said softly. We're meant to be peacekeepers, not generals. But the galaxy needed us, and we answered. Sometimes I wonder if that was our greatest failure, allowing ourselves to become warriors instead of remaining guardians. There's no shame in protecting the innocent, Diana said. But there's wisdom in questioning whether the methods you're using serve that goal. When this war ends, and it will end, you'll need to remember what it means to be a peacekeeper again. If I survive that long. You will, Diana said with certainty. I've seen enough of you to know. You're one of the good ones, Obi-Wan Kenobi. The galaxy needs people like you when the dust settles. The gunship bay was organized chaos, pilots running pre-flight checks, clone troopers loading ammunition, astromech droids performing repairs. Diana's assigned gunship was a LL-I model, its hull scarred from previous battles. The clone pilot, designated Hawk, according to his helmet, gave her a skeptical look. No offense, ma'am, but you don't look like you're equipped for a ground assault. No armor, no blaster, just rope? Diana smiled. The rope is all I need. Well, that and these. She tapped her bracers. Trust me, Hawk. I've been doing this longer than you've been alive. Ma'am, I'm 7 years old. Chronologically, my point stands. The gunship dropped through Cato Nemoidia's atmosphere like a stone, the hull shuddering as they hit turbulence. Through the open bay doors, Diana could see the bridge city, a magnificent feat of engineering, an entire urban center suspended between rocky spires by massive support struts. And it was burning. Droid forces had the clone troopers pinned in a plaza near the bridge's center. Diana could see the distinctive white armor taking cover behind overturned vehicles and crumbling barriers, while battle droids advanced in relentless waves. Blaster fire lit the smoke-filled air in strobing flashes. Can't get close enough for a safe landing, Hawk reported. AA fire is too heavy. You'll have to jump from here, about 40 meters up. That's fine, Diana said, moving to the bay door. Ma'am, 40 meters is... Diana stepped out into empty air. The fall should have killed a normal human. Diana hit the plaza in a three-point landing, cratering the permacrete beneath her boots. Dust and debris exploded outward from the impact. When she straightened, she found herself surrounded by startled clone troopers and several dozen battle droids that had just noticed her arrival. New contact detected, one droid announced in its characteristic monotone. Identify yourself. Diana drew her lasso. I'm the person having a very bad day, and I'm about to make it your problem. She moved like lightning incarnate. The first rank of droids barely had time to process her movement before she was among them, the lasso whipping out to decapitate 3 in a single stroke. Her bracers deflected blaster fire as she spun, kicked, struck. Each movement precisely calculated, no motion wasted. Battle droids collapsed around her in sparking heaps, their blasters unable to track something moving with Hermes' divine speed. The clone troopers stared in shock for approximately 3 seconds. Then their training kicked in. Concentrate fire on the droids, their commander, a captain with orange markings, shouted. Support the... whatever she is. Amazon! Diana called back, clotheslining a super battle droid hard enough to tear its head clean off. From another dimension! Long story! The plaza became a whirlwind of combat. With Diana drawing the droid's attention, the clones could reposition, bringing their superior marksmanship to bear. Droidekas rolled into the plaza, their shield generators flickering to life, but Diana simply grabbed one by its shields, lifted it, droideka, shields and all, and hurled it into a building with enough force to bring part of the wall down. By the Force, one trooper breathed, watching Diana tear through a squad of commando droids with her bare hands. Is she a Jedi? Jedi don't fight like that, the captain said, his voice carrying awe. Jedi are elegant. She's just... terrifying. A separatist AAT tank rumbled into the plaza, its main cannon swiveling toward the clone position. Diana assessed the threat in an instant, too heavily armored for the troopers' weapons, and the tank's main gun would devastate their position. She sprinted directly at it. Blaster bolts from the tank's anti-personnel guns tracked her, but she deflected them with her bracers without breaking stride. As the main cannon fired, Diana leaped, impossibly high, clearing the plasma bolt by meters, and came down on the tank's hull with both boots. The impact dented the armor inward. Diana grabbed the cannon barrel with both hands and pulled. Divine strength, Demeter's gift, amplified by the righteous fury of a warrior defending the helpless, allowed her to do what should have been impossible. The cannon barrel bent, then tore free from its housing in a shriek of tortured metal. She raised it overhead like a javelin and drove it through the tank's hull, straight into its power core. The explosion threw her backward, but Diana rolled with the impact, coming up in a crouch as the tank's burning wreckage collapsed. Around her, the remaining droids were falling to concentrated clone fire. In less than 5 minutes, she'd turned the tide of an entire battle. The plaza fell silent except for the crackle of flames and the whir of cooling blaster barrels. The clone captain approached slowly, removing his helmet to reveal a face identical to every other clone, but his eyes were uniquely his own, wide with disbelief. "Ma'am, I'm Captain Cody of the 212th Attack Battalion. I've seen Jedi do incredible things, but that was..." He searched for words. That was something else entirely. "I'm Diana," she said simply, surveying the battlefield. "Are your men all right? Any casualties?" 3 wounded. None critical thanks to you. If you hadn't shown up when you did..." Cody's voice trailed off. They both knew how that sentence ended. Diana moved among the troopers, checking on the wounded, offering words of encouragement. They looked at her with something close to reverence, these child soldiers who'd been bred for war and told it was their purpose. "You fought well," she told them. "All of you. You should be proud." "Just doing our duty, ma'am," one trooper said, wincing as a medic treated a blaster burn on his arm. "We were designed for this." "No one is designed for war," Diana said gently. "You may have been created for it, but that doesn't make it your only purpose. When this conflict ends, you'll have choices. Remember that." Cody approached, his comlink crackling. "General Kenobi wants to know if you need extraction." "Tell him the plaza is secure," Diana said, "and that you're all heroes, every single one of you." As the gunship descended to retrieve her, Diana watched the clone troopers regroup, already preparing for the next battle. So young, impossibly young, despite their adult bodies. Created as tools, trained as weapons, but possessing something the Kaminoans who made them never anticipated. Individuality, honor, loyalty that went beyond programming. They deserved better than this war, better than being expendable. And suddenly, Diana understood the full scope of Palpatine's evil. It wasn't just Anakin he'd corrupted, or just the Republic he'd poisoned. It was the very concept of life itself, reducing sentient beings to manufactured soldiers, cheapening existence until millions could die and be replaced with fresh batches from the cloning facilities. This had to end. Not just the war, but the entire system that enabled it. On the flight back to the Resolute, Diana stared out at Cato Nemoidia's smoke-stained sky and made herself a promise. When she faced Palpatine, when she wrapped him in the lasso of truth and forced him to confess his crimes, she would make him answer for all of it. Not just the manipulation of Anakin, not just the engineering of galactic conflict, but the casual evil of creating life to be destroyed. That, more than anything, was unforgivable. The holographic message arrived encrypted with Padme's personal codes, but when Diana activated it in the secure chamber aboard the Resolute, the face that appeared wasn't the Senator's. It was Anakin's, and he looked terrified. "Diana, something's wrong with Padme," he said without preamble, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. "She contacted me an hour ago saying she felt faint, that something didn't feel right with the pregnancy. Then the transmission cut off. I can't reach her. I can't reach Rex. Nobody's responding from Naboo." Diana's blood ran cold. "When did this happen?" 43 minutes ago. I wanted to leave immediately, but Master Windu ordered me to stay on Coruscant until we know what's happening. He thinks it might be a trap, that Palpatine somehow discovered her location and is using her to draw me out." Anakin's hands clenched into fists. "Diana, I can't just sit here while she might be dying. Please, you're closer to Naboo than I am. You have to check on her. I'm already moving, Diana said, terminating the hologram and sprinting for the hangar bay. She found Obi-Wan in the corridor, clearly having received the same message. It could be a trap, he warned, falling into step beside her. If Palpatine knows where Padme is, then she needs help immediately, Diana finished. Trap or not, I'm not leaving her vulnerable. That was my oath. They commandeered the fastest ship available, a Jedi interceptor modified for stealth operations. The journey to Naboo took 3 hours that felt like 3 years. Diana spent them in meditation, centering herself, preparing for whatever she might face. Her powers had been slowly recovering, adapting to this universe's strange energy. She was perhaps 95% of her full capacity now. Good enough. It had to be good enough. The lakeside villa appeared peaceful as they descended through Naboo's atmosphere. Too peaceful. No clone troopers visible on patrol. No signs of activity. The landing platform's lights were dark. Diana was out of the ship before it fully touched down, Obi-Wan close behind with his lightsaber already ignited. They moved through the villa with tactical precision, Diana taking point, her enhanced senses straining for any sign of ambush. The interior was immaculate, nothing disturbed, no signs of struggle, but also no signs of life. Padme, Diana called, her voice echoing through empty corridors. Rex, anyone? Silence answered. They found the bedroom empty, the bed made, Padme's few possessions still in place. No blood, no scorch marks from blaster fire, no indication of violence at all. It was as if everyone had simply vanished. This doesn't make sense, Obi-Wan said, his lightsaber casting blue light across the walls. If there was an attack, there should be evidence. Bodies, at minimum. The clones would have fought. Diana moved to the terrace, her warrior instincts screaming that something was fundamentally wrong. The suns were setting again, painting the lake in familiar gold and crimson. Beautiful and serene and completely, utterly wrong. Obi-Wan, she said quietly, I think we're in a trap, but not the kind you're thinking. What do you mean? Diana closed her eyes, reaching out with senses beyond the physical. In her universe, she could feel the presence of divine power, the touch of the gods' attention. Here, she'd learned to sense something similar. The Force, that living energy that permeated everything. And right now, the Force felt twisted, like reality itself was bending around this location. This place isn't real, she said. Or rather, it's real, but we're not seeing the truth of it. Someone, or something, is showing us what they want us to see. A Force illusion? Obi-Wan's expression darkened. That would take immense power. The only Force users capable of illusions this sophisticated would be a Sith Lord, Diana finished. Palpatine. This is his doing. He's manipulated us into coming here. But why? What does he gain by? The villa dissolved. One moment they stood on the terrace. The next, Diana and Obi-Wan found themselves in a massive chamber of polished black stone, illuminated by red light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. And standing at the chamber's center, flanked by his crimson-robed royal guards, was Supreme Chancellor Sheev Palpatine. Except he didn't look like the kindly politician anymore. His eyes burned yellow with Sith corruption. His features were twisted into something predatory, ancient malevolence barely contained in aging flesh. And the dark side radiated from him like heat from a furnace, oppressive and suffocating. Welcome, Jedi Kenobi, Palpatine said, his voice carrying layers of menace that had never been present in his public persona. And welcome, Diana of Themyscira. I've been very curious to meet the dimensional traveler who's been disrupting my carefully laid plans. Diana's hand moved to her lasso. Where's Padme? What have you done with her? Senator Amidala is quite safe, Palpatine said with a smile that never reached his corrupted eyes. For now. She's still on Naboo under the protection of your clone troopers, completely unaware that I've pulled you into this private space. A pocket dimension, if you will, held between moments. Outside, only seconds have passed. In here, we have all the time we need. For what? Obi-Wan demanded, his lightsaber raised. To monologue about your evil plans? To remove obstacles, Palpatine said simply. You see, young Skywalker was progressing beautifully toward his destiny. Fear, anger, attachment. All the seeds I planted were ready to bloom. And then she arrived. He gestured at Diana with contempt. An outsider with her primitive lasso of truth, disrupting decades of careful manipulation with her simple-minded idealism. Truth isn't primitive, Diana said, drawing the lasso and letting it coil in her hands. Golden light pushed back against the red, creating a sphere of clarity around her. It's the foundation of everything real, and your entire plan is built on lies, Palpatine. Or should I call you Darth Sidious? The Sith Lord's smile widened. Oh, I've had many names. Sidious, Palpatine, the Dark Lord of the Sith. But to you, in these final moments, you may call me victorious. He raised his hands, and lightning crackled between his fingers. Did you really think you could challenge me? I am the culmination of 1,000 years of Sith planning. I have orchestrated a war that spans the galaxy. I have corrupted the Chosen One and engineered the fall of the Jedi Order. What is one displaced Amazon against all of that? Someone who's beaten gods, Diana said, and lunged. She moved with divine speed, crossing the distance faster than human eyes could track. The lasso whipped out toward Palpatine, golden cord seeking his wrist. If she could bind him, force him to confess, maybe Obi-Wan could record it, broadcast it to the Republic. Palpatine gestured, and Diana slammed into an invisible wall of Force energy. The impact drove the air from her lungs, sent her sprawling backward. She'd felt telekinetic powers before, Superman's heat vision, magical barriers. But this was different. Darker. It felt like malevolence given form. Impressive speed, Palpatine acknowledged. But you're operating under a fundamental misunderstanding, Amazon. The dark side isn't just power. It's inevitability. It's the truth that all beings eventually embrace. That strength matters more than virtue. That survival requires sacrifice. That order can only come through absolute control. Obi-Wan attacked while Palpatine was distracted, his blue blade seeking the Sith Lord's heart with Jedi precision. But the royal guards moved to intercept, their force pikes crackling with energy. The chamber erupted into chaos, lightsaber meeting pike in showers of sparks, Diana rolling to her feet and charging again, Palpatine's laughter echoing off the black stone walls. You cannot win! The Sith Lord declared, unleashing force lightning toward Diana. She raised her bracers, and the electricity earthed harmlessly against divine metal. Even your God-forged trinkets won't save you. This is my domain. Reality itself bends to my will here. Diana felt it then, the trap within the trap. This pocket dimension, this space between spaces, it was saturated with dark side energy. Fighting here was like fighting underwater, every movement sluggish, every breath tasting of corruption. Palpatine had home field advantage in a very literal sense. But Diana hadn't survived centuries of combat by relying only on physical prowess. Obi-Wan! She called, deflecting another lightning blast. The illusion! It's anchored to something! Find the focal point! The Jedi Master understood immediately. While Diana kept Palpatine and his guards occupied, Obi-Wan extended his senses through the Force, searching for the thread that connected this false space to reality. There, a Sith artifact, a holocron pulsing with dark energy, hidden in an alcove behind Palpatine's throne. I see it, Obi-Wan called, Force pushing a royal guard aside and sprinting for the alcove. Palpatine snarled, abandoning his attack on Diana to focus on the Jedi. Fool! Touching that holocron will trap your mind forever in... Diana's lasso caught his wrist. Golden light blazed, and Palpatine screamed, not in pain, but in fury. The lasso of truth didn't care about the dark side's power or ancient Sith secrets. It simply was truth, immutable and absolute. And bound by it, even a Sith Lord could not lie. Speak, Diana commanded, pulling him toward her with Amazon strength. Where's the real Padme? What have you done? Nothing yet, Palpatine spat, the words forced from him against his will. She's safe on Naboo. I only created the illusion to draw you away, to isolate you where I could. He cut off, fighting the compulsion with visible effort. Where you could kill us without witnesses, Diana finished. But why? Why not just let your plan with Anakin proceed? Because you would have stopped it! The confession burst from Palpatine like poison from a lanced wound. Your lasso, your truth. It would have revealed me too soon before all pieces were in place. I needed you gone before the final act, before Order 66. Diana's blood ran cold. What's Order 66? A command protocol, Palpatine said, his yellow eyes burning with hatred even as the truth spilled from his lips. Implanted in every clone trooper. When I give the order, they will turn on their Jedi generals. Kill them all. Every Jedi in the galaxy, betrayed by the soldiers they trusted. And young Skywalker, watching his order die, will have nowhere to turn, but to me. To the dark side. To... Obi-Wan's blade pierced the holocron. The pocket dimension shattered like glass. Diana felt reality reassert itself with nauseating force. The black chamber dissolving, Palpatine's form flickering, the royal guards vanishing like smoke. For one instant, she saw the Sith Lord's true face, saw the absolute fury in his corrupted eyes. This isn't over, Amazon, Palpatine's voice echoed as the illusion collapsed. I've seen futures you cannot imagine. I've planned for every contingency. You cannot stop what's already in motion. Diana and Obi-Wan crashed back into the real villa on Naboo with enough force to send them sprawling across the terrace floor. The suns were still setting. Barely a minute had passed in real time. Just as Palpatine had claimed. And standing over them with blasters raised, looking very confused and alarmed, were Captain Rex and a full squad of clone troopers. General Kenobi. Rex lowered his weapon slowly. Ma'am, you just appeared out of nowhere. What? Where's Padme? Diana demanded, pushing herself upright. Is she safe? Senator Amidala is resting inside, Rex said, clearly bewildered. She felt tired earlier and went to lie down. She's been sleeping for about an hour. Why? What's... Diana didn't wait for him to finish. She sprinted past the troopers into the villa, following her enhanced hearing to the bedroom. Padme was there, sleeping peacefully, her hand resting on her swollen belly. Her heartbeat was strong and steady. The twins' heartbeats even stronger. Safe. Alive. Untouched by Palpatine's manipulations. Diana sagged against the doorframe in relief so profound it was almost painful. Behind her, Obi-Wan appeared, looking shaken but determined. We need to contact the Council immediately, he said quietly. Palpatine just confessed to being Darth Sidious. He revealed Order 66, a protocol to execute all Jedi. If we don't act now... Then the nightmare I saw in my vision comes true, Diana finished. She looked at Padme, so peaceful in sleep, unaware of how close they'd come to catastrophe. But we have a problem. No one else heard that confession. It's your word and mine against the Supreme Chancellor's. Then we'll need more than words, Obi-Wan said grimly. We'll need proof. And we'll need Anakin to be strong enough to face what his mentor truly is. Diana nodded slowly, her mind already racing through scenarios and strategies. Palpatine had revealed his hand too soon, pulled them into his trap before all pieces were positioned. That meant he was worried, genuinely concerned that Diana's presence was disrupting his plans. Good. Let him worry. Let him doubt. Because doubt was the first crack in any seemingly perfect plan. And Diana of Themyscira had gotten very good at exploiting cracks. Get some rest, Obi-Wan said, placing a hand on her shoulder. We'll need you at full strength for what's coming. What's coming? Diana repeated softly. Is the fall of a Sith Lord. One way or another, this war ends soon. And when it does, Palpatine will answer for every life he's destroyed, every manipulation, every lie. She looked at the sleeping senator again. I made an oath. I intend to keep it. Outside, the suns completed their descent. And Naboo's night descended like a curtain, In the darkness, plans were being made. Pieces were moving, and somewhere on Coruscant, a Sith Lord sat alone in his office, reassessing the board. The game had changed. The Amazon had proven more troublesome than anticipated. But Darth Sidious hadn't ruled the shadows for decades by being inflexible. If his original plan was compromised, he would adapt, improvise, find another way to bring about the empire he'd envisioned. After all, he'd been patient for 30 years. He could be patient a little longer. The real question was, could Diana? The Jedi Council chamber had never felt so tense. Diana stood at its center, flanked by Obi-Wan, facing the assembled masters whose expressions ranged from skeptical to deeply concerned. Anakin stood near the viewport, his posture rigid, fists clenched at his sides. He'd barely spoken since hearing about Palpatine's confession. "A Sith Lord. The Chancellor is," Yoda said, his ancient voice heavy with sorrow. "Confirmed, this truth now is, but proof we lack. Testimony alone, not enough to convince the Senate." "He confessed while bound by my lasso," Diana insisted. "He couldn't lie. He admitted to being Darth Sidious, to orchestrating both sides of this war, to planning the extermination of the Jedi Order through this Order 66 protocol." "We believe you," Mace Windu said, though his tone carried frustration. "But the Senate won't. You're an outsider with unknown abilities. Palpatine could claim you used some form of mind control. He's spent years building political capital. We've spent years as his generals, following his orders. If we move against him without irrefutable evidence, we'll be branded traitors." "Then we gather evidence," Diana said. "Search his offices, his personal quarters. A Sith Lord of his power must have artifacts, holocrons, something that proves—" "We can't," Obi-Wan interrupted. "Not legally. The Chancellor has executive privilege. We'd need Senate approval for a search, which means convincing them first. It's a circular problem." Anakin finally spoke, his voice barely controlled. "So we do nothing. We just let him continue manipulating the Republic while we sit here wringing our hands about legality?" "We act carefully," Mace Windu corrected. "Rashness is what Palpatine expects, what he wants. If we attack him without proper cause, we validate every warning he's been feeding the Senate about the Jedi becoming too powerful, too arrogant." "He's right," Padme said from the entrance. She'd insisted on attending despite Diana's protests, arguing that as a senator, she understood the political realities better than anyone. Palpatine has been positioning himself as the reasonable voice of stability for years. If the Jedi suddenly declare him a Sith Lord based solely on testimony from an interdimensional traveler, she shook her head. "You'll lose. The Senate will choose him over you. And he'll use that mandate to destroy the Order legally." "So what do you suggest?" Diana asked, fighting down her warrior's instinct to simply march into Palpatine's office and drag him before the Senate in chains. "We can't let him activate this Order 66. If he does, every Jedi in the field dies, betrayed by their own soldiers." "We need to force his hand," Anakin said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. "Make him reveal himself publicly, in a way that can't be denied or explained away. If people see him use Sith lightning, if they witness his corruption firsthand." "He's too careful for that," Obi-Wan objected. "He's maintained this facade for decades. He won't simply drop it because we challenge him." "He will if he thinks he's already won," Diana said slowly, an idea forming. "Palpatine's entire plan revolves around Anakin. Everything, the war, the manipulation, the prophecy, it all leads to turning the Chosen One to the dark side. What if we give him what he thinks he wants?" Anakin's eyes narrowed. "You want me to pretend to fall? To go to him and act like I'm ready to embrace the Sith teachings?" "No," Mace Windu said immediately. "Absolutely not. The dark side isn't something you can play with, Skywalker. The moment you open yourself to it, even as deception—" "I know the risks," Anakin interrupted. "But Diana's right. Palpatine wants me as his apprentice. If I go to him, tell him I've had a vision of Padme dying, that I need his help to save her, he'll believe it because it's what he's been waiting for." "And then what?" Obi-Wan demanded. "He teaches you Sith techniques, and you somehow resist corruption long enough to expose him? Anakin, the dark side feeds on exactly what you're struggling with. Your fear for Padme, your anger at the council, your desire for power to protect those you love. You'd be walking into the lion's den covered in meat. Unless he's not alone, Diana said. I'll go with him. Hidden. Palpatine's office must have places to conceal someone. I can stay out of sight until he reveals himself. And when he does, when he admits the truth and begins teaching Anakin forbidden techniques. She touched her lasso. I bind him, force him to confess everything in front of witnesses. We'll have Senate guards standing by, maybe even a recording. Padme stepped forward, her hand instinctively moving to her belly. Anakin, you don't have to do this. There has to be another way. If something goes wrong, if Palpatine senses the deception, he won't, Anakin said, moving to take her hands. Because I won't be deceiving him. Not completely. Everything I'll say will be true. I am afraid of losing you. I would do anything to save you. The only lie will be my willingness to actually fall to the dark side to do it. And that, he looked at Diana. That's where your lasso comes in. If I start to falter, if I feel the darkness pulling too strongly, you bind me with it. Force me back to the truth. A dangerous plan, this is, Yoda said, his ears drooping. Risk we do losing Skywalker to the very darkness we seek to expose. But it's our best option, Mace Windu said reluctantly. If we can get Palpatine to reveal himself in front of witnesses, the Senate will have no choice but to act. And if Diana is there with her lasso. He looked at her appraisingly. Can you move silently? Remain undetected even from a Force user as powerful as Sidious? I've infiltrated Apocalypse, Diana said. I've stood in Hades' throne room unnoticed. I can be stealthy when required. Then we proceed, Mace Windu decided. But with modifications. Obi-Wan, you'll position yourself outside Palpatine's office with a security detail we can trust. Not clones. Regular Republic guards who aren't susceptible to Order 66. The moment we have confession and proof, you bring them in for the arrest. What about the Separatists? Padme asked. If Palpatine is removed, who's controlling the droid armies? The war could spiral out of control. One crisis at a time, Obi-Wan said. First we stop the Sith Lord. Then we deal with the mess he's created. Anakin turned to Diana, his expression serious. If I start to fall, if you see the darkness taking hold, don't hesitate. Use the lasso immediately. I'm trusting you to save me from myself if necessary. I won't let you fall, Diana promised. That's why I'm here, remember? To prevent the tragedy I saw in my vision. That tragedy begins with your corruption. We'll stop it before it starts. When do we move? Anakin asked the council. Tonight, Mace Windu said. Palpatine has been requesting private meetings with you, Skywalker. Contact him. Tell him you need to speak urgently about a vision. He'll clear his schedule immediately. And the rest of us? Padme asked. You return to Naboo, Obi-Wan said firmly. Under heavy guard. If this goes wrong, you and those children are the future of the Jedi line. They'll need protection. Padme looked like she wanted to argue. But Diana caught her eye and shook her head slightly. This wasn't Padme's battle to fight, not directly. Her role was to survive, to bring those twins into the world, to be the hope that would endure whatever darkness was coming. The senator nodded reluctantly. Then may the Force be with you. All of you. Palpatine's office was exactly what Diana expected. Opulent, refined, decorated with art from 1,000 worlds. The Supreme Chancellor stood at his viewport, gazing out at Coruscant's endless lights, his hands clasped behind his back. He wore the face of the kindly politician again, but Diana, hidden behind a decorative column, her presence suppressed through sheer stillness and will, could sense the malevolence beneath. Anakin, my boy, Palpatine said warmly as the Jedi entered. Thank you for coming so quickly. You sounded distressed in your message. Please, sit. Tell me what troubles you. Anakin remained standing, his posture tense. Diana could see the internal struggle written across his face, the fear for Padme warring with his Jedi training, exactly as Palpatine had engineered. I had another vision, Anakin said, his voice rough. Padme was dying, giving birth to our children. The medical droids couldn't save her. They said she'd lost the will to live. He clenched his fists. It felt real, Chancellor. Just like my dreams about my mother before she died. I won't lose her. There has to be a way to prevent it. Palpatine turned, his expression perfectly crafted sympathy. My dear boy, the Jedi would tell you to let go, to accept death as natural. But you and I know better, don't we? Love is not a weakness to be suppressed. It's a strength to be embraced. The Council doesn't see it that way, Anakin said bitterly. They'd rather I let her die than break their precious code. The Jedi have become dogmatic, Palpatine agreed, moving closer. Rigid in their thinking. They fear power, fear emotion, fear anything they cannot control. But Anakin, there are powers in this universe they've never told you about. Powers that could save Senator Amidala. Powers that could save anyone you love. Diana's hand moved to her lasso, ready. This was it. The moment of corruption. The offer of forbidden knowledge that would begin Anakin's fall. What kind of powers? Anakin asked, and Diana heard genuine hunger in his voice. He was playing his role, yes, but the desperation was real. That made this even more dangerous. The dark side of the Force, Palpatine said simply. I know this frightens you. You've been taught it's evil, unnatural. But evil and good are simply points of view, Anakin. The Sith and the Jedi are similar in almost every way, including their quest for greater power. The difference is the Jedi are selfless, suppressing their emotions. The Sith embrace passion, use it to grow stronger, to protect those they love. You're talking like you know Sith teachings, Anakin said carefully. Chancellor, what are you saying? Palpatine smiled, and in that smile, Diana saw the mask slip. Saw the predator beneath the politician. I'm saying that I am the path to power you seek. I am the teacher who will show you abilities the Jedi cannot. I am... He paused dramatically. Darth Sidious, Dark Lord of the Sith, and I can teach you to save Padmé Amidala from certain death. There it was, the confession. The truth spoken freely because Palpatine believed he'd already won. Diana moved. She emerged from concealment with divine speed, the lasso of truth uncoiling like a golden serpent. Palpatine sensed her in the instant before the lasso touched him, his eyes widening in shock and fury. He reached for the Force, lightning crackling between his fingers. The lasso wrapped around his wrists, and golden light blazed through the office. No! Palpatine screamed, not in pain, but in rage. The dark side energy around him flared, trying to burn through the lasso, but divine magic held firm. You! How did you? Truth always finds a way, Diana said, pulling the Sith Lord toward her. Anakin, record this. Every word. Anakin's hand trembled as he activated his comlink's recording function. Chancellor, Sidious, you confessed. You're the Sith Lord we've been hunting. Yes! The word tore from Palpatine against his will. I am Darth Sidious. I engineered this war. I control both Republic and Separatists. And you, boy, you were always meant to be my apprentice. The chosen one, turned to darkness, helping me build an empire that will rule for 1,000 years. Order 66, Diana demanded. What is it? A contingency protocol, Palpatine spat, fighting the compulsion with visible effort but unable to resist. Implanted in every clone trooper. When I give the command, they'll execute their Jedi generals. The entire order will be destroyed in a single stroke. Anakin's face had gone pale. The clones? They'd have no choice? They just kill us? They're programmed to obey, Palpatine snarled. Just like you were programmed by prophecy. Just like the Republic was programmed to grant me power. Everything has been manipulated, controlled, guided toward this inevitable conclusion. The door burst open. Obi-Wan entered with 6 Senate guards, their weapons raised. Sheev Palpatine, by the authority of the Galactic Senate and the Jedi Council, you are under arrest for treason, conspiracy, and crimes against the Republic. Palpatine's yellow eyes fixed on Diana with pure hatred. You think this changes anything? Even bound by your primitive rope, even arrested and tried, I've already won. The seeds are planted. The Republic is diseased beyond saving. Someone will finish what I started, because the galaxy craves order above all else. Maybe, Diana said, but you won't be the one providing it. She pulled tighter on the lasso. Tell them about Count Dooku. About your manipulation of the Separatists. The confessions poured out. Each one recorded. Each one witnessed. The full scope of Palpatine's decades of manipulation, revealed in his own words by a lasso that couldn't lie and wouldn't release. By the time they finished, even the hardened Senate guards looked shaken, and Anakin Skywalker stood at the viewport, staring out at the city planet, tears streaming down his face. He'd trusted Palpatine, believed in him, and it had all been manipulation, lies piled upon lies to engineer his fall. Diana released the lasso carefully, keeping herself between Palpatine and Anakin. The Sith Lord was powerful, but bound in force-dampening restraints and surrounded by guards. Even he couldn't fight his way free. It's over, Palpatine, Diana said quietly. Your empire dies here. For now, the Sith Lord said, his voice carrying dark certainty even in defeat. But the dark side is patient, Amazon, and the galaxy's suffering is eternal. Someone else will rise. Someone always does. As they led him away, Diana couldn't shake the feeling that despite their victory, Palpatine's final words carried the weight of prophecy. The Senate chamber erupted in chaos. Diana watched from the visitors' gallery as senators from 1,000 worlds shouted, argued, demanded answers. On the central platform, Mas Amidala, Palpatine's former aide, now acting in an interim capacity, struggled to maintain order while Bail Organa presented the evidence. Holographic recordings of Palpatine's confession, testimony from 3 Jedi Masters, and documented proof of his communications with Separatist leadership. This is absurd, Senator Orn Freeta from Ryloth protested, his multiple chins quivering with indignation. The Chancellor has served faithfully for over a decade. One recording, obtained through admittedly unconventional means, hardly justifies. He confessed to engineering both sides of a war that has killed billions. Padme's voice cut through the din. She stood at her delegation's platform, her pregnancy barely visible beneath her formal robes, but her presence commanding absolute attention. He admitted to planning the systematic execution of the Jedi Order. These aren't allegations, Senator Ta. These are documented facts spoken in his own voice. Obtained through what this Amazon calls a lasso of truth, another senator objected. For all we know, it's a mind control device. We're supposed to overturn a decade of leadership based on magical rope? Diana's hands tightened on the gallery railing. Obi-Wan, standing beside her, placed a calming hand on her shoulder. Patience, he murmured. Politics move slowly. Even with proof this damning, there will be those who resist the truth. Why? Diana demanded, keeping her voice low. The evidence is irrefutable. Every word verified. Every claim substantiated. What more do they need? To admit they were fooled, Obi-Wan said sadly. To acknowledge that the man they granted emergency powers to was a Sith Lord manipulating them for decades. That's a hard truth to swallow, Diana. It means confronting their own complicity. Below, Bail Organa was presenting timeline analysis, showing how Palpatine's political maneuvers always seemed to benefit from convenient crises, how his rise to power coincided with manufactured threats. The evidence was overwhelming, methodical, and absolutely damning. And yet, Diana could see senators whispering among themselves, crafting political calculations rather than facing moral realities. Motion to delay vote, pending independent investigation, someone called. Motion to appoint special counsel to verify recording authenticity. Motion to... Enough! Padme's voice rang out, amplified across the chamber. I call for an immediate vote of no confidence in the emergency powers granted to the Supreme Chancellor. Every moment we delay is another moment those powers remain in place. Powers we now know were sought by a Sith Lord for explicitly evil purposes. The chamber fell silent. A vote of no confidence required immediate action. No delays, no committees, just a simple majority decision. Seconded, Bail Organa said firmly. Mas Amidala looked desperately uncomfortable. The motion is recognized. All senators wishing to vote in favor of removing emergency executive powers indicate now. The voting display lit up. Diana watched the holographic tally with held breath. Red lights, votes against removal, began appearing. But they were quickly overwhelmed by green, senators from across the Republic finally recognizing the threat Palpatine had posed. When the count finished, it wasn't even close. 73% in favor of removal. The motion passes, Mas Amidala declared, his voice barely audible over the erupting conversation. Emergency powers are hereby revoked. The Senate will vote on interim leadership within... An alarm cut through the chamber, not a fire alarm or evacuation signal, but something far worse. Diana recognized it from her time aboard Republic ships, a military alert. "What's happening?" she demanded. Obi-Wan's comlink crackled. Mace Windu's voice came through, tense and urgent. "Kenobi, we have a situation. The Separatist droid armies just received new orders. They're standing down, powering off completely, across the entire galaxy." Diana's tactical mind processed the implications immediately. Palpatine's control, with him arrested, whatever contingencies he had in place, are activating. Obi-Wan finished. "But droid armies standing down is good news, isn't it? Unless there's something worse coming," Diana said grimly. As if summoning her fears into reality, a new holographic transmission hijacked every screen in the Senate chamber. The image showed a tall, imposing figure in dark armor. A cyborg with multiple arms, each capable of wielding a lightsaber. General Grievous, the Separatist military commander. "Senators of the Republic," Grievous's mechanical voice rasped. "Your chancellor has been exposed. The war you thought you understood was a lie. But make no mistake, the Confederacy of Independent Systems is not. Our grievances against Republic overreach are real. Our desire for independence is legitimate. And now that Sidious's manipulation is revealed, we have a choice to make." The chamber held its collective breath. "We can continue this war," Grievous continued. "Both sides free of Sith control but still bleeding resources and lives. Or we can negotiate. Actual negotiation, not the puppet theater Sidious orchestrated. The Confederacy is willing to discuss terms, if the Republic is willing to acknowledge our sovereignty." Padme stepped forward. "General Grievous, I am Senator Padmé Amidala of Naboo. I was among those who opposed the Military Creation Act. I have always believed diplomacy should precede violence. If the Confederacy is genuinely willing to negotiate in good faith..." "Good faith?" Grievous laughed, a harsh, mechanical sound. "That concept died the moment we learned both sides answered to the same Sith Lord. But pragmatism remains. The Republic is weakened, its leadership in chaos. The Confederacy could press our advantage. But we're tired, Senator. Tired of war orchestrated by puppet masters. Tired of dying for someone else's agenda." Another voice cut in, Count Dooku's hologram appearing beside Grievous. But something was different. The Sith Lord's bearing was less arrogant, his expression actually showing something like regret. "I, too, have been freed from Sidious's manipulation," Dooku said, his cultured voice carrying across the Senate. "The Sith rule of two demands the apprentice eventually betray the master. I intended to overthrow Sidious once his empire was established, take you as my apprentice, Anakin Skywalker, and rule together. But your Amazon friend has shown me something I'd forgotten, that some chains are invisible until they're broken." Diana felt Obi-Wan tense beside her. Is he saying what I think he's saying? When Diana's lasso touched Sidious, Dooku continued, something rippled through the Force. A moment of clarity where all his lies became transparent, not just to those present, but to everyone he directly influenced. I felt decades of manipulation lift like a fog. I am still a believer in the dark side's philosophy, still convinced the Jedi have grown complacent, but I will not be a pawn in another's game. "So what do you propose?" Bail Organa asked carefully. "An armistice," Dooku said. "Not surrender. The Confederacy worlds joined for legitimate reasons, but an end to Sidious's manufactured war. Negotiations for an actual political solution. Perhaps even a restructured republic that addresses the concerns that drove systems to secede in the first place." The Senate erupted in debate again. Some senators demanded unconditional separatist surrender. Others, seeing an opportunity to end the war without further bloodshed, called for accepting the offer. And through it all, Diana watched the holographic displays, her warrior's instincts screaming that something was still wrong. "Obi-Wan," she said quietly. "Palpatine's been planning this for decades. You really think his entire scheme falls apart because we arrested him? He must have contingencies." "Order 66 was his ultimate contingency," Obi-Wan said. "With him in custody, unable to give the command." "He had years to plan," Diana insisted. "Multiple Sith apprentices, secret bases, hidden resources. Arresting one old man doesn't dismantle an organization that's sophisticated." As if hearing her concerns, Mace Windu's voice crackled through Obi-Wan's comlink again. "All Jedi Masters, return to the temple immediately. We've detected something in the lower levels, a disturbance in the Force. Concentrated dark side energy, growing stronger." Diana and Obi-Wan exchanged glances, then ran. The Jedi Temple's lower levels were ancient, predating even the current structure. Diana descended through corridors that grew progressively older, the architecture shifting from refined elegance to rough-hewn stone. The Force energy down here was palpable even to her non-Force sensitive perception, like static electricity before a storm, raising the hairs on her arms. They found Mace Windu, Yoda, and a dozen other Jedi Masters standing before a sealed door marked with warnings in languages Diana didn't recognize. The door pulsed with dark energy, and something behind it was trying to break through. "A Vergence point this chamber contains," Yoda said grimly, "sealed for generations. But someone has been feeding it power. Dark side energy, accumulated over years." "Palpatine," Mace Windu said. "He had access to the temple. He could have been slowly corrupting this Vergence, storing power for exactly this scenario." The door exploded outward. What emerged wasn't Palpatine. He remained imprisoned, force-dampened, and contained. But it didn't need to be him. The dark side energy had taken form, a massive shadowy entity that radiated pure malevolence. Not sentient, not truly alive, but a weapon. A trap sprung from beyond Palpatine's cell. "A Sith phantasm," Dooku's voice said from behind them. Diana spun to find the former Count standing at the corridor's entrance, his red lightsaber ignited but held in a non-aggressive stance. "Sidious's final contingency. If he fell, this construct would activate, attempt to destroy the Jedi Temple from within. I apologize for my role in its creation." "You knew about this?" Mace Windu demanded. "Not the specifics," Dooku admitted. "But I know Sith methodology. This is textbook. If the Master falls, ensure maximum chaos and destruction. Sidious would have poured years of dark side energy into this construct. It will attempt to kill every Force-sensitive being in the temple." The phantasm surged forward, tendrils of darkness reaching for the nearest Jedi. Lightsabers ignited throughout the corridor, blue and green blades cutting through shadow that simply reformed. The Force users pushed back with coordinated effort, but Diana could see the strain on their faces. This thing was feeding off the temple's own energy, growing stronger with each passing moment. "We can't destroy it with the Force," Obi-Wan said, deflecting a tendril that tried to wrap around his throat. "It's made of dark side energy. We're just feeding it more power to draw from." Diana stepped forward, drawing her lasso. "Then we use something that isn't the Force." "Diana, don't!" Anakin called from where he'd just arrived, having sensed the disturbance. "That thing will corrupt anything it touches." "Not truth," Diana said. She let the lasso unfurl, golden light pushing back against the shadows. "Darkness can't exist where truth shines. That's not philosophy. It's physics." She whipped the lasso forward, and where it touched the phantasm, the darkness screamed. Not with sound, but with a psychic shriek that resonated through the Force. The golden cord wrapped around the construct's core, and Diana pulled with all her Amazon strength. "Speak," she commanded, not knowing if the thing could even respond. "What is your purpose? What truth do you hide?" The phantasm convulsed. And then, impossibly, it spoke, not in Palpatine's voice, but in the voices of every being whose suffering had fed its creation. "We are fear. We are death. We are the price of Sidious's ambition. We are nothing but lies given form, Diana interrupted. She pulled harder, channeling not just physical strength, but the conceptual weight of truth itself. The lasso began to glow brighter, so bright that Jedi shielded their eyes. And lies cannot stand against truth. The phantasm shattered, not dispersed. Shattered, like glass breaking. Fragments of dark energy dissolving into nothing as the lasso's power unraveled the very concept holding them together. In seconds, the corridor was clear, the oppressive dark side presence gone as if it had never existed. Diana collapsed to one knee, breathing hard. That had taken more out of her than fighting Palpatine, more than her battle in vacuum. She'd pitted divine truth against concentrated evil, and while truth had won, the cost had been steep. Anakin was at her side immediately, supporting her. That was incredible. Insane. But incredible. Just doing my job, Diana managed, accepting Obi-Wan's offered hand to stand. Is it over? Is that the last of Palpatine's contingencies? Uncertain, the future is, Yoda said, his ancient eyes studying Diana with new respect. But weakened, the dark side's influence has become. Palpatine imprisoned, his phantasm destroyed, his war ended. A victory, this is. Perhaps not complete, but significant. Dooku stepped forward, deactivating his lightsaber. I should return to the Confederacy. We have much to discuss, both internally and with the Republic. But before I go, he looked at Anakin. Skywalker, Sidious was grooming you as my replacement, feeding your fears, stoking your anger. I want you to know, the dark side's freedom is an illusion. It binds as surely as any code. Learn from my mistakes. You're still a Sith, Mace Windu said coldly. You've committed atrocities in this war. You think one moment of clarity absolves you? No, Dooku said simply. I expect I'll answer for my crimes eventually. But for now the Confederacy needs leadership, and I can provide it. Perhaps in time, I can even help negotiate a real peace. Consider it penance. He left before anyone could stop him, his presence in the Force fading as he departed the temple. Should we pursue? A Jedi Knight asked. No, Yoda decided. Needed on both sides leadership is. If Dooku can truly negotiate in good faith, then useful he may be. Watch him we will. But allow him to try, we must. Diana looked around at the assembled Jedi, exhausted, shaken, but alive. The temple had survived. The Order had survived. And while Palpatine's shadow would linger for years, maybe longer, the immediate threat had been neutralized. What happens now? She asked. Now, Mace Windu said, we rebuild. The Republic, the Jedi Order, everything Sidious corrupted. It will take time. Perhaps generations. But we have something we didn't have before. He looked at Diana. We have truth. And truth, it seems, is more powerful than even the dark side. Diana smiled tiredly. Truth has always been powerful. You just have to be brave enough to face it. In his cell deep in the Republic Judiciary Complex, Sheev Palpatine sat in darkness, force-dampening restraints cold against his wrists. His empire had died before it could be born. His apprentice had been saved. His phantasm had been destroyed. But Palpatine had been patient for 30 years. He could be patient longer. The dark side was eternal, and sooner or later, the galaxy would create another like him. Another who understood that freedom was chaos, that order required control, that sentiment was weakness. He smiled in the darkness. The Sith would rise again. Perhaps not in his lifetime, but they would rise. 6 months after Palpatine's arrest, Diana stood on the same Naboo terrace where she'd first sworn to protect Padmé Amidala. But everything had changed. The war had ended not with conquest, but with negotiation. Messy, complicated, ongoing negotiations that would take years to fully resolve. The Republic was restructuring, limiting executive powers, addressing the grievances that had driven systems to secede in the first place. And the Jedi Order, shaken by how close they'd come to extinction, was reevaluating their role in galactic affairs. But today wasn't about politics or philosophy. Today was about new life. Inside the villa, Padme lay in bed, exhausted but radiant, cradling two tiny bundles against her chest. Luke and Leia, named for Padme's grandmother and Anakin's mother. The twins were barely an hour old, and already Diana could sense the force flowing through them like twin rivers of potential. "They're perfect," Padme whispered, tears streaming down her face. Not tears of sorrow, but of overwhelming joy. "Diana, you saved us. All of us." Diana knelt beside the bed, studying the infants with wonder. Luke had his father's features already starting to form, while Leia had her mother's determination written in every tiny expression. "You saved yourself, Padme, by being strong enough to trust, to hope, to keep fighting even when prophecy said you'd die." Anakin stood at the window, his back to them, shoulders shaking. Diana could sense the emotions roiling through him. Relief, joy, residual fear, and something else. Shame, perhaps, for how close he'd come to falling. "Anakin," Diana said gently, "come meet your children." He turned slowly, his face wet with tears. "I almost destroyed everything. If you hadn't been there, if I'd listened to Palpatine—" "But you didn't," Padme interrupted. "You chose differently, Anakin. When it mattered most, you chose light over darkness. That's what defines us, not our temptations, but our choices." Anakin moved to the bed, kneeling on the opposite side from Diana. He reached out with trembling hands to touch Luke's tiny fingers, then Leia's. The moment his skin made contact, both infants opened their eyes, blue, clear, staring up at their father with absolute trust. "I swear," Anakin whispered, his voice breaking, "I will never let darkness touch you. Either of you. I'll be the father you deserve, the Jedi I was meant to be. This I swear on everything I am." "Good," Obi-Wan said from the doorway, his voice warm with affection. "Because they're going to need a teacher eventually, both of them. And I'm getting too old to train younglings alone." Diana smiled at the Jedi Master. "You brought friends?" "A few." Obi-Wan stepped aside, revealing Mace Windu, Yoda, and surprisingly Bail Organa and his wife Breha. "We thought the birth of the Chosen One's children merited some acknowledgement. These two will be important to the galaxy's future." "Strong in the Force they are," Yoda confirmed, hobbling forward to peer at the twins with ancient, knowing eyes. "But strong in love, they are also. Saved by their mother's survival, the galaxy has been. A debt we cannot repay. To Diana we owe." "You owe me nothing," Diana said. "I did what I came here to do. I saved a life." That Padme's life was the keystone holding back catastrophe was fortunate timing. "Fortunate?" Mace Windu raised an eyebrow. "Diana, you appeared from another dimension at the exact moment you were needed most, bearing abilities specifically suited to counter Sidious's manipulations. Some would call that destiny." "I call it purpose," Diana corrected. "The gods, or the Force, or whatever power governs reality. Sometimes they point warriors in the right direction. The rest is up to us." Breha Organa moved closer, her expression wistful as she studied the twins. "They're beautiful, Padme. You're very blessed." "I know," Padme said, then hesitated. "Breha, if anything ever happens to me and Anakin, if somehow we can't raise them—" "Don't," Anakin said sharply. "Don't even think that way." "We have to think that way," Padme said firmly. "We're public figures, Anakin. Targets. The war may be over, but Palpatine's influence lingers. Separatist hardliners still resist the peace. We need to know our children will be protected." She looked at Bail and Breha. "Would you—" "We would be honored," Bail said immediately. "Though I pray that day never comes." "As do I," Padme said. "But being a mother means planning for every contingency." She looked at Diana. "What about you? Will you stay? Help us raise them?" Diana felt the pull, the temptation to remain in this galaxy, to watch these twins grow, to continue fighting for justice among the stars. But she could also feel something else. a tugging at her divine essence, a call back to her own universe. The dimensional rift that had brought her here was beginning to close. She had days, maybe a week, before she'd be pulled back whether she wanted to go or not. "I can't stay," Diana said softly. "My universe needs me. There are people there I've sworn to protect, threats I've left unaddressed by coming here. But I'll remember you. All of you." She touched Luke's hand, then Leia's. "And I'll carry the memory of these 2 perfect lives I helped preserve." "Will we ever see you again?" Anakin asked. "The universe is vast and strange," Diana said. "Dimensional barriers aren't absolute. Perhaps someday, if the need is great enough, I'll find my way back. Or you'll find your way to my reality. Stranger things have happened." "That they have," Obi-Wan agreed. He approached Diana, extending his hand. "You've been a true ally, Diana of Themyscira. The Jedi Order owes you a debt we can never repay. You gave us back our chosen one. You exposed a Sith Lord who had deceived us for decades. You ended a war and saved billions of lives. If that's not heroism, I don't know what is." Diana accepted the handshake. "I did what any warrior with a conscience would do. I saw suffering and moved to prevent it. That's not heroism, it's basic decency. In a galaxy where indifference is common, basic decency is revolutionary," Mace Windu said. "You've shown us that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a lightsaber or the Force, but simple truth. We'll remember that lesson." Yoda tapped his Geimer stick against the floor. "A gift we have for you. Small, but meaningful." He held out a small crystalline object, a Jedi holocron, its surfaces etched with intricate patterns. "Records of your time here, this contains. Stories of the Amazon who saved the galaxy. So that when you return to your world, proof you will have. And so that future Jedi will remember. That help can come from the most unexpected places." Diana accepted the holocron, feeling its weight, both physical and symbolic. "Thank you, all of you. This has been extraordinary." "Before you go," Padme said, struggling to sit up more fully despite her exhaustion, "I need to know. In your vision, the one that brought you here, you saw me die. But you also saw something else, didn't you? Something you didn't tell us?" Diana met her eyes, seeing the intelligence and courage that had made Padme a queen at 14 and a senator who commanded respect across the galaxy. She deserved truth. "I saw a man in black armor," Diana admitted. "Standing over bodies. I saw an empire rising from the Republic's ashes. I saw these twins separated, hidden, growing up never knowing each other. And I saw them, years later, grown, standing against that darkness and winning. Your children were always meant to be important, Padme. The question was whether they'd be orphans fighting to redeem their father's legacy, or supported children fighting alongside their parents." "And now?" Anakin asked, fear and hope warring in his voice. "Now the future is unwritten," Diana said. "That's the beauty of free will. Prophecy shows what might be, not what must be. You've changed your fate, Anakin. All of you have. What comes next is entirely up to you." She stood, preparing to leave, when Leia, tiny, barely an hour old, wrapped her impossibly small fingers around Diana's thumb. The grip was surprisingly strong, and Diana felt something pass between them. Not the Force, not exactly, but a connection. A recognition of one warrior acknowledging another. "She knows," Padme said, wonder in her voice. "She knows you're the one who saved us." "She'll be a fighter," Diana predicted, gently extracting her thumb. "Both of them will be. But they'll have something I didn't in my early years. Parents who love them, a support system, and a galaxy that's learned to question authority, rather than blindly follow it. That's your real victory. Not defeating Palpatine, but creating a world where your children can grow up safe." Over the next few days, Diana prepared for her departure. The dimensional barriers were weakening, and she could feel the pull of her own reality growing stronger. She spent time with the Jedi, sharing knowledge about different forms of combat and philosophy. She met with Bail Organa, discussing how to restructure the Republic to prevent another Palpatine from rising. She even had one final conversation with Palpatine himself, the Sith Lord imprisoned but unrepentant. "You think you've won," Palpatine said from behind his cell's force field, his yellow eyes burning with malevolent intelligence. "But I've seen the future, Amazon. Darkness always returns. Perhaps not in my lifetime, perhaps not for generations. But it returns. And when it does, your precious Skywalker children will face challenges that make my empire look benign." "Perhaps," Diana agreed. "But they won't face those challenges alone. They'll have each other. They'll have their parents. They'll have a galaxy that's learned from your mistakes. And most importantly, they'll have the truth. Your greatest weapon was lies, Palpatine. And lies can't survive once truth is spoken aloud." "We'll see," Palpatine said, smiling that terrible smile. "Time is on my side. The dark side is patient." "So is justice," Diana replied, and walked away. On her final evening, Diana stood alone on the Naboo terrace, watching the twin suns set one last time. She felt the dimensional pull growing stronger, knew she had perhaps hours left in this reality. A part of her would miss this place. The endless stars, the diverse species, the Force itself flowing through everything like cosmic music. But another part longed for home. For Themyscira's shores, for her mother's embrace, for the familiar weight of protecting her own world rather than someone else's. "Leaving without saying goodbye?" Anakin's voice came from behind her. He approached, carrying a datapad. "I wanted to give you this. It's a compilation. Messages from everyone you've helped. Clone troopers whose lives you saved. Senators whose votes you influenced. Younglings in the temple who heard stories about the Amazon who fought a Sith phantasm. I thought you should know the impact you've had." Diana accepted the datapad, scrolling through messages of gratitude, respect, and hope. Hundreds of them. Thousands. A galaxy's worth of lives touched by her presence. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "This means more than you know." "Thank you," Anakin countered. "For saving my wife, my children, my soul. I was so close to falling, Diana. So close. If you hadn't been there—" "But I was," Diana interrupted gently. "That's what matters. You faced your darkness and chose light. That choice was yours, Anakin. I just gave you the tools to make it." "Will you really leave?" he asked. "Never come back?" "I'll leave," Diana confirmed. "But never is a long time. If this galaxy truly needs me again, if the Force calls and the barrier's thin, who knows? I've crossed dimensions once. Perhaps I can do it again." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the suns complete their descent. When full darkness fell, Diana felt the pull become irresistible. The dimensional barrier was opening, a rift forming that would carry her home. "It's time," she said. Anakin embraced her quickly, fiercely. "May the Force be with you, Diana of Themyscira." "And may truth guide you always, Anakin Skywalker," Diana replied. She stepped back, spreading her arms as the rift opened around her in a cascade of colors that had no names. Through it, she could see glimpses of her own reality. Themyscira's beaches, the Hall of Justice, the familiar constellations of Earth's sky. Home. As the rift pulled her through, Diana took one last look at the Star Wars galaxy. At Anakin standing on the terrace. At the villa where Padme rested with her twins. At the stars wheeling overhead in alien constellations. She had come here to save one woman. Instead, she'd saved a galaxy. Not bad for a warrior princess from another dimension. The rift closed, and Diana was gone, leaving behind only legends and the promise that heroes could come from anywhere, even beyond the stars themselves. The ripples of Diana's intervention spread across the galaxy for generations. Luke and Leia Skywalker grew up knowing both their parents, raised with love and wisdom rather than in hidden exile. They trained as Jedi together, learning not just the Force but the value of truth and compassion that Diana had exemplified. When darkness did eventually rise again, as Palpatine had predicted, the twins stood against it, not as orphans seeking redemption, but as confident warriors supported by family and galactic unity. Anakin Skywalker never fell. He became one of the greatest Jedi Masters in the Order's history, teaching that attachment wasn't weakness, but strength when balanced with wisdom. His legacy wasn't as the terrifying Darth Vader, but as the chosen one who brought balance by choosing love over fear. The Jedi Order reformed, abandoning their dogmatic suppression of emotion in favor of Diana's philosophy, that truth and compassion were the real paths to understanding the Force. They became true peacekeepers again, not generals, serving the galaxy rather than ruling it. And the Republic, restructured, limited in power, responsive to its citizens, slowly healed from centuries of corruption. It wasn't perfect. Perfection was never the goal, but it was better, fairer, more honest. In the Jedi Temple's archives, a special holocron sat in a place of honor. It told the story of Wonder Woman, the Amazon from beyond the stars who had appeared when needed most, changed the course of history, and vanished back to her own reality. Young Jedi would activate it and hear Diana's voice explaining that heroism wasn't about power or destiny, but about choosing to stand for truth even when lies were easier. And sometimes, on quiet nights when the Force flowed strong, sensitive Jedi would swear they could feel her presence, a touch of divine truth from beyond dimensional barriers, a reminder that help could come from the most unexpected places. Padmé Amidala lived a long life, serving the galaxy as senator, diplomat, and mother. She never forgot the woman who had saved her from a fate that seemed inevitable. On her deathbed, surrounded by her adult children and their own families, her final words were, "Tell them truth always wins." Diana proved it. The galaxy remembered. And when darkness rose again, as it always did, the people stood ready. Because they'd learned the lesson Wonder Woman taught, that lies could be defeated, that fate could be changed, and that one person choosing to act could alter the course of history itself. Somewhere, across dimensional barriers in another universe, Diana of Themyscira continued her endless fight for justice. She never forgot the galaxy she'd briefly saved, the twins whose lives she'd preserved, or the chosen one she'd pulled back from darkness's edge. And if the barriers ever thinned again, if the Force called strongly enough, if that galaxy needed her, she would answer. Because that's what heroes did. May the Force be with you. More stories await.